life.
Fuck yeah, boys. It's been hard work getting you two fucking absolute popular superstars of Adelaide mental health scene. That's what you guys are. We've had multiple reschedules, but actually, no one would know their beautiful faces because
last time
your computer fucking shat itself.
Yeah, they know the voices, the sultry voices.
They know the sultry. Yeah, they know the singing voices as well. And we're hoping he's got a tune. I'm wearing the merch. I've worn it multiple times, but we are very, very fucking excited to be able to have a secondary chat with the boys from the Next Step Australia. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome back Simmo and Richie. Please, thanks for coming on, boys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, boys.
Boys, thank you so much for having us. Here we are. And yes, we finally made it down here to beautiful, sunny Mawson Lakes.
Sunny Mawson Lakes.
Literally went into the pub and asked if I'm in the pub.
If I'm in the right place.
Yeah,
and,
great.
3 packed lunches, 5 bottles of water and a tank of gas later, we're here.
So I thought you guys were Barker, but you're Moana.
Beautiful area, man.
So even further, Aldinga.
Well, I was in Aldinga, but now I live in Modbury, so I've got no excuse for not turning up. No, I'm original South boy though.
Welcome to the hood, by the way. So I mean, Modbury's not too hood, but it's still hood.
Yeah, it's a little bit hood.
And there's still graph on most buildings.
Yeah,
I'm across
less used needles.
Yeah,
I'm across from the Clovey, so it gets a little bit rowdy.
Okay, so
that's pretty hood in there.
That's pretty hood up there. Yeah.
So did you buy a house there or something? Or?
Nah, moved in with my my partner's brother. So yeah, it's an enjoyable time at the moment.
Wow, are you guys like building or something? Is that why?
Just saving for a house. So.
Trying
to finally get ahead.
Where do you want to buy a house then?
Anywhere but Modbury.
Yeah, literally.
Not that bad.
No, we don't know. It's just at the moment, it's one of those things that you can't even fucking really consider about where you want to buy. It's just how much can I actually afford. So we'll just see what happens, and hopefully house prices drop a little bit. And
it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. But you were saying off camera before that you've just been on the grind lately, mate.
Yeah, so we've been so flat out with the Next Step, and look, I'm finishing up my PhD at the moment, so I've got about 4 months to go, and so it's just been pretty taxing to sort of sit in the research and get all that sort of stuff done, and it's come to crunch time now, but managing to do enough to sort of try and keep Richie afloat and supported, I think, because he's taken the major role at the moment, and we're just trying to do what we can. So
we're doing a good job, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a big year, and obviously, as we said, we didn't mind the reschedules because it was we know the amazing work that you guys are doing, but it's been a very busy year. But in case, I guess, the people that are tuning in, maybe they only like the video because they're fucking assholes and they haven't gone back and listened to the episode, which you should. You should pause this right fucking now and go back and listen to the first episode.
It's in the 40s.
It's in the 40s, but
it was 46.
46,
the ripple effect.
He's on
knows the pod better than we do.
Now it's 87.
But in case they're too lazy, I guess, just set the scene for anyone who's listening now. I guess give us a very quick rundown of what Next Step is and what you're trying to achieve, and I guess we can then perfectly segue that into what's been happening since the last time we caught up.
Okay, well, a quick version of it is 2020. We banded this idea that would create a platform on Instagram to support our gym community, a few mates, 30, 40. And it was off the back of 2 mates passing very close together, one by suicide. And we're leading into COVID and basically knew that would have an impact on our social circle. And coming off that grief with these 2 lads who were both very close to us personally, we just wanted to create something that could basically bridge the gap for us boys, just to stay in touch, reach out, check in on each other, share whatever. It was just going to be for whatever, basically. Rang Simmo. He came on board, rang Brett, he came on board. Within a week, we'd done a few little bios and I picked a few pictures of this and that and the other, and we just saw it out there. And roll on 2.5 years later, here we are now, close to 2,000 followers, and we're doing all sorts of stuff that I'm sure we can talk about later. So that's how we sort of started.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, I said just before we started about how much I fucking absolute dick ride you boys in the right way, all right? The other way, we don't talk about that on the pod.
It's a pleasure.
But just again, talk about people that are an inspiration in the community, and that's what I really see you guys as, and I mean that not just because you're on the pod. It's why I wanted you to get you back on, because we had incredible chat last time. Go back and listen to it, you fuckheads. But it was just, you know, the kind of passion, the way that you spoke about it, the kind of drive that you guys had. And I guess, I mean, as we kind of get in a little bit more to what's been happening with you guys lately, it really resonates from you, you know, when you have the conversation. And the couple of lives that I've jumped in with you on Instagram, like it's just the way you talk about it is so relatable. It's so accessible. And I think that's the most important thing and why, you know, I love you guys so much. So obviously, what we were talking about beforehand is that you've now kind of stepped it up. Before you were just an Instagram page. And I think what we talked about in the first episode, which I think is important, is and what kind of, I guess, you guys, the space that you operated in was a perfect segue from a time of crisis to being able to reach out and then getting help, right? So, you know, bridging that gap, which, you know, for a lot of people that have dealt with it, from step 1 to step 3 feels like a marathon or, you know, a bridge that you could never jump over. And you guys are able to, you know, lay out that tarmac between the two. And I think, you know, obviously that has now stemmed into you going and getting not-for-profit status and turning it into a company so that you can obviously also play a part in that third section as well, where you're able to actually give more of the assistance and more of the help. So talk to us about how that came about and kind of the story about that as well.
I just want to pause there because I think part of what we're trying to do as well is we're very aware that as we grow and get bigger, there's that utility as well, and probably some of the research and what we're finding out as well is us not just being in this crisis space, but also being further upstream as well. There's a lot of movement that's starting to happen in going, look, we see it in healthcare systems and stuff all the time, this crisis. And while we still want to sit in that space and try and, you know, help people get into the services, and we see the utility in that, we also go, shit. And look, it's really becoming apparent in some of my research as well that we still haven't broken down a lot of stigma. There's not a lot of, you know, it's becoming more of a commentary around mental health in the community, and it's there, but it's still a long way off. Like I fucking froth at the moment because, you know, I got connections with Movember and that sort of stuff, and it's so epic to see that getting shared, but there's still so much work to do in that space.
Still a bit of tiptoeing, hey? Almost.
Shit, yeah, fucking oath. Right. You know, like it's still and particularly this is why we're focused on men's health and men's mental health is there's still like, I think people are comfortable to sort of talk or listen about it, but actually coming out and going, oh, fucking dude, I got mental health challenges that I need to work through, or I need to go get some help and all those sorts of things. It's still not normal for a lot of people.
It's not comfortable. Yeah. And I mean, if I can share a part off the back of that, you know, only a couple of weeks ago, I did a talk on behalf of the Next Step to Marcelline's College, which is, you know, a group of year 11 and year 12s. And off the back of that, you know, we give our presentation and, you know, what we do in that space. And it's interesting to see that even the young kids, and this is what we're trying to educate, is they still find it really hard and difficult to ask the question because they're really afraid of the response. And I think that goes for any demographic really, and that's what we're about. It's about in that, I guess what we're talking about is that preventative stage. How do we clue up and skill up people so that they've got the confidence to ask that question if someone's struggling or, hey, you okay? But if the response comes back to, you know what, no, I'm not doing okay, then what to do next?
Yeah.
What's the next step? So should we do that again through this whole...
No, absolutely.
But we'll see when we can jam in.
So I guess in a way, sort of what I'm trying to say here is, you know, it's about, for us, or for me especially, it's about giving confidence to the people there sitting next to anyone, to not be afraid of asking, but then if the response comes back, then what to do thereafter. And you know, it's pretty simple the way we try to frame it.
And I think that's a big part for us is like, we still want to be that touch point, and we think that we've got utility in terms of us being able to give some contextual support to somebody that's going through that process and to streamline and you know, chuck some DMs back and give them some guidance. And that's what we do as well. We've got a web page that's set up now too, so that there's information there about where to go and events and things like that. But it's also about, how do we actually get this really to go out to the community and impact things, and how do we spread the message? You talk about what was the name of the last episode, the ripple effect, 46. fucking go back and listen to it. But what, you know, you talk about ripple effect and you're like, shit, you know, I think we've sat down as a group as well and gone, shit, how do we get this to permeate society? How the hell do we get this out there so that fucking, you know, if I'm struggling and I'm a member of a footy club, there's somebody there that I can go have a chat with and or they're going to fucking pick something that's, old mate's not right. You know, something's wrong. He's fucking, mate, why is he smoking cones in his car before footy practice? That's bullshit. That's not his normal behaviour. I'm going to go ask him, are you fucking all right, dude? Yeah.
100%. Like you were saying, obviously there's a lot of people that are like, I want to help my boy out or help my girl out because like they're struggling right now, but they don't know how to. So they go, hey, they reach out and go, oh, is everything okay? And the person comes back and goes, hey, look, nah, I'm not okay. And if they're sitting there going, oh, I don't really know what to do, that will then put stress on them as well.
That's right. Yeah, 100%.
I was just going to say as well, like, I think it's easy for us as well, like, to probably think that the progress that we're making is bigger than what it is because we're constantly thrusting ourselves into the conversations and whatever. So, like, you know, in terms of our circle and our immediate, feels like we're making fucking leaps and bounds, but we make up, you know, such a small percentage of the universe at the end of the day. 100%. So, you know, for everyone that doesn't know about this podcast or the Next Step or whatever and haven't had any of these things that have been kind of, you know, putting it into their realm of existence, they're still just, you know, struggling with the same stigmas, the same problems. So it's like, you know, as you said, that getting into that preventative space, how do we, you know, expand that awareness and how do we get it into more people in ways that are, you know, I guess different than the Movembers and whatever, which have been around for a long time and do occupy a space. But again, like, you know, you've got to kind of like get yourself into that to know what it's about. Otherwise, it's just another thing on your
100%.
You know?
And
So
I think there's a more practical component here as well in terms of like Movember do great work and they fund research and they do fund a lot of good things, but there's a real fucking process of here our money goes back into the community directly. Like we're looking at going, right, how do we upskill community members? How do we train? How do we create awareness in our community? You know, we're not, you know, running around and, you know, my PhD is funded by a charity as well, but you know, it's kind of it floats around in oblivion. You know, whereas this is like, look, there's fucking real world applications.
Tangible,
here.
man.
Yeah, something that comes out of it, and I think that's why I'll probably always be with the Next Step because I see the utility of it as opposed to me just jerking myself off in an office. I promise I don't do that.
Well, I think we said this the last time as well. Like, you know, because of even the stigma that surrounds getting psychological help or whatever as well. Like, and you are not when someone goes, oh, this is a man, you know, doing his PhD. The way you talk, especially when the cameras are off or whatever. But you need more of that. Yeah, you want people that are like, oh my, this feels like I'm talking to my mate at the footy club, at the pub or whatever.
Relatable
because, like,
people, not people wearing suits and ties.
That's the exact path I was going to go down because, you know, and look, I'm not knocking anything. Well, Simmo and I are having a chat before we came here. And, you know, it doesn't matter who is doing this or who is promoting awareness around this topic. We're all actually doing the same thing, which is great. But I guess in a roundabout way, it's then who you connect with, resonate with, or who you want to align with. But I think for me personally, when I'm on social media accounts and seeing all this stuff happening out in the community, and this is no offense to anyone because there's age demographics across everywhere, right? But I'm seeing a lot of 50, 60, maybe even getting close to 70-year-olds who are giving back, which is fantastic. Don't knock that for a second.
Definitely progress,
because everyone has their part to play. But I look at that and go, how's that 60-year-old man or 60-year-old woman connecting with the 17-year-old bloke before training footy, smoking cones in the car? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not going to. So this is where I guess my advocacy comes around is where it's like we need to tackle mental health amongst our community, but at a peer level. Do you know what I mean? So if we can be training or getting like-minded individuals skilled up to a point that they can help within their demographic, then job done. That's how we're going to save lives.
Yeah.
The 6-year-old gentleman who's got all the qualifications and all that has unfortunately probably lost touch with the younger generation. He might get a few valid points across, but the young bloke's not going to sit there going, what the fuck was that old boy talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, let's get back in the cones.
It's like my mum when she tells me that I should be buying a house already, and it's like, thanks, baby boomer.
I'm doing a PhD.
Yeah. Like, that's not good enough. Like, come on.
Thanks, mum. She does love me, I think. No, but it's a massive thing, and look, you know, it makes me really happy that you say that because that's one of the when you talk about trying to be more relatable within the field. But I do see that it's a changing status at the moment, like, and looks part of my work as well. And what I want to do in the future is really try and change that rhetoric around psychologists and how they present themselves. And you know, when I'm in clinical practice, people often laugh because I'll walk up to the front desk and be like, "Yo, what's happening? Let's go."
Smoking a durry.
Yeah.
Catch me out the front of the practice smoking a durry. Like, you know, that's what I do. And so, but you're starting to see what we're hoping to see is that elitism within psychology starting to break down, and that people are actually more comfortable being themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think for a period of time there, and I know when I went through undergraduate psychology, it was very much that sort of maybe don't talk about your lived experiences and protect yourself because you want to be seen as this person that's well adjusted. And
Very doctorate, hey?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, fuck that. Like, I am who I am. And, you know, if you don't like that, well, that's, you know, it doesn't mean that I'm any less intelligent than anyone.
No,
I can still read a book. I just struggle with my mental health. And
Exactly.
Look, I think the proof's in the pudding. Anyone who I've spoken to who has gone through therapy gets more from finding that the person, and look, this may not be 100% of people. This is just my experience with people that I've spoken to. When they cycle through going to see a few different psychologists, when that one who, you know, is able to level with them on their own experience or whatever, that's the one that they, you know, gel with. So it's like, you know, that's why I say that, is because I know people are like, they don't want to have someone that feels patronizing or whatever, you know, talking down to them about.
To them, man.
No one wants, not no one, I can't make that blanket statement, but I feel like the majority of people would rather have someone who's able to give them, you know, advice and direction from, you know, from a feeling of sitting next to them rather than someone above them being like,
on the playing
these are
field,
all the places that you went wrong, instead of being like, hey, you know what, like this is what I've done and this is how I know exactly what you're feeling and what you're doing. And then, because, you know, the whole thing of like how isolating mental health is, right? So that's the thing, is that you're, whether it's really bad anxiety, depression, any of these things, and it makes you feel like no one could possibly understand what it is that you're going through, right? So it's incredibly isolating to feel like, so when you need a psychologist or a friend or whoever it is to be able to break down that wall of like, no, this is exactly how, and without it being like making it about them, because that you do get people like that as well. The whole like, you've done one shit, I've done two. You don't want that. You don't want to take it too far. Oh, no, I've been way more depressed than you. No, but someone to be like, I know exactly why you're feeling this way because this is my similar experience. That just has so much more to offer.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, it is starting to change. It's important that you note as well that it's like it was actually the psychologists themselves that were kind of being trained or whatever in a way to not, so it wasn't like that was their personality necessarily, or that they were all like this, that it was that, you know, over time it was like, no, you've got to, you know, leave lived experience out, it distance yourself from the problems themselves and just give the help. But then that started to create this kind of offshoot of a problem.
Yeah, it becomes this elitist grouping, like only, you know, what you would term mentally healthy people can help somebody. And it's like, well, actually, no. And like, you know, there's this whole rhetoric. I mean, look, you know, I like to call myself a chameleon as well. Like I do leave my, you know, personal shit at the door. I have to, but as well, I'm not going to, if a 40-year-old woman from Burnside comes in, I'm definitely not going to come out as Simmo.
Of course
you know
not.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Now I'm
it's
Simon.
about, yeah. Simon, lovely to meet you.
Dr.
You know,
Simon.
Shit, I better do my fly up. You know, that sort of thing. And so it's about being nuanced, and that's a good psychologist as well. And you are trained that, and that's what's so funny about it is you're trained as well to, you know, self-disclosure and things like that. It can be a very, very fucking powerful tool, but it's about sharing it at the right time and being able to pick that from your person. Like somebody might come in and be like, I want to hear about your fucking shit, bro. And so it's like, well, I'm not going to share it.
Well, effectively what we're talking about, right, is normalisation, all right? So when we start forming normalisation, we make people realise that oh, shit, I'm not alone. Someone else is experiencing the exact same thing. So we're watering it down to say, do you know what, mate? We've all been there, so to speak, in a roundabout way. And you build that empathy straight away. Oh, wow, someone's actually understanding me from a lived experience point of view, but then clinical background as well. So when we start building normalisation around a topic through whatever it might be, lived experiences, you get someone on side straight away.
You're halfway there.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so funny as well, though, because like, and I get this all the time. This is like, I don't like to tell people what I do for a job because you never get left alone.
Yeah.
It's the same as physios and stuff. I'm sure. Oh, I've got this shoulder injury. It's
Yeah.
fuck off, mate. No, but
I'm just at
funnily,
the pub, like,
Yeah.
please, I'm trying to train. Leave me alone. But it's funny because people will always come up to you and they'll be like, I'll be like, oh, you should go see someone for that. Oh, nah, they couldn't deal with what I've dealt with. And I'm like, mate, I've heard it all. I've seen it all. Like, you know, and I've been practicing for that long. Like, your experiences are unique to you, but trust me, like, there's somebody out there that's been through a pretty similar experience.
You'll be
Stop feeling like someone's going to judge you for saying things like, you know, and it's crazy.
But in a roundabout way, when you're going through that therapeutic approach, right, in a roundabout way, you're going there for answers, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're going there to find out why we're feeling the way we are or whatever. Now, if you've got someone who's sharing some lived experience around that, there's so much more buying. It's like, oh, hang on, this guy's been through it and has probably got the tools or the answer I might be seeking. So the connection starts building straight away. Yeah. But if you've got someone sitting there, almost like anything in life, fuck man, don't know what you're talking about. You're going to go, well, what the fuck am I sitting
what am I sitting here for?
So because you don't know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like it's part of the reason why we try and get a whole different bunch of people onto the podcast. Like the guy who was on, Ben, who was on just an episode ago, and he telling his story. And someone could be listening going, you know what, I went through something similar to that. And then take away the positives that he then at the end was going, you know, I've come through and I've then now made a change in my own life. And they go, all right, well, there is a pathway for me to go. You know?
There's always a pathway. I think that's part of it too, is you're starting to see changes in people getting more confident in being who they are within the industry. And it's exciting for me. It's like, I mean, I only see men in clinical practice.
Yeah.
Because I am a man and I understand more of what it is. I really struggle having female clients because I'm sort of like, well, your experience is so unique to you and I might be able to help you on a top echelon level, but then there's some things there that I'm never going to experience.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I don't have, well, I probably do have body image issues, let's be honest. I spent half my life at the gym, but, you know, not from that lack of self-confidence or anything like that, you know? And so
it's funny that you say that as well, because like me personally, like going through what I've gone through with like exes and even my partner now, I'm like, give me fucking girls. Like I've got them figured out and like where, you know, whereas we're like, probably my mates, I don't know, not as much as I haven't dealt with as much like in my mates as I have like, you know, my partners.
Yep.
It's just crazy how it's like that's the experience I have to draw from is like what I've seen them go through and
100%.
and the ways that they were able to overcome the challenges themselves.
And my partner would say this, like, I'm a terrible support for her. Like, she gets so frustrated. She's like, how are you a psychologist? You are so special when it comes to this. Because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because you haven't lived it.
No, I haven't lived it. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, hang on, my pragmatic nature is to fucking give you solutions. Yeah. She's like, I just want to fucking...
I just want to vent.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Like,
I heard this thing one time that was like, you go to your partner and you go, do you want solutions or do you want sympathy?
Yeah.
So good.
And like, I've tried that one time and I was like, fuck, it works. Because sometimes they don't want solutions. They know the solution. They just want to whinge
they
about
just
it.
want to whinge about it. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's something
cathartic to be able to hear someone be like, yeah, that is fucked.
Yeah.
That's something I talk about a lot, and it was passed down to me by a psychologist probably 7-8 years ago now. But they frame it exactly like that, and Simmo's just touched on it, and we can just quickly do it here. But, you know, as blokes, we're naturally problem solvers, you know, so we see a problem, we find a solution, we fix it, okay, let's move on. Yeah. Whereas women generally like to talk and be emotional around things, and they want to vent. So, yeah, I was given a tool that was very similar, and it's basically going into those conversations with a female, could be anyone, and they're coming to you with a problem, you ask that exact question. Are we looking for a solution here, or am I listening?
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then straight away, then it puts the onus back on the storyteller in the sense like, oh, well, hang on, what do I want out of this conversation? Oh no, you know what? I do want a solution to this. Or no, you know what? I just want to listen. Oh, beauty.
Exactly.
I think that's maybe my problem.
But the other important thing here to understand as well, because this can go another level, is that as blokes will understand, we can only absorb so much information at one point in time until we start getting distracted. So to our women listeners, if you're going to engage in a conversation with your male counterpart, make sure you've got it laid out in simple steps and simple terms, because you're going to get far better buy-in with this, that, the other, A, B, C, and D, than if you go to A to C to D and then down to C.
Yeah, then
and
circle back.
Taking us on your convoluted Narnia fucking journey of your problem. That way.
Because you've fucking lost us.
Yeah.
So
that's
that
when
as
we
a
get
hot tip.
frustrated and try and deliver a solution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
just
yeah.
to try and
Conversation end.
Yeah. And I'm so bad at that because I'll get in it like I know I pick up halfway through that my missus is just trying to have a vent.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I'm just going, well, just do this. Like, why are we still having this conversation? And then I have to click and be like, oh, you just want to fucking let this all out. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Put the kettle on, baby. Like, we're in for the long haul.
Yeah, and without going to the next level again, we can talk about conflict resolution here in the 5 styles of conflict resolution. Okay, so there's competitive, collaborative, compromise, accommodating, and avoiding. Right. So if you want to collaborate and compromise over a conflict issue, you're going to win. You guys, as a couple or as 2 individuals engaging, you're going to win every time. But if you've got competitive nature or got someone, no, I'm not going into this, no one gets a good result out of this type of communication.
Welcome to relationship counselling. With
I was about to say with
Richie.
Richie Welsh, Dr. Richie.
The love doctor.
I'm sitting here listening, going, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. I wanted to just go back onto the normalization piece.
Sorry for dragging it completely.
No, look,
hey,
this is what this pod.
That's what a podcast is.
If it wasn't called wormholes, it would be called fucking tangents. All right, that's what it is. But back on the normalization thing, I wanted to say something that I've been picking up on heaps lately because I'm just a podcast like fiend. It's all I do every time I'm in the car, and it's mostly comedy stuff. Like it used to be heavy on the conspiracy stuff, and then it just got burnt out, and now it's just like I just love listening to comedians talk shit and feed off of each other, that banter. But what I was thinking about recently, and I was talking to my partner about it, is that part of this stigma was around mental health, especially was you think about every 90s sitcom, hit TV show, every single thing that existed. It was always like, oh, you're going to see a shrinker. You're going to see a shrinker. You're going to see a shrink. That sarcastic, like anything to do with going to get help was you're weak, you're whatever. Now, every single fucking podcast that I listen to is they've got BetterHelp as a sponsor. But what I love about it and why I think it's such a massive, and whether or not they're just talking shit for whatever, but every one of these comedians or whatever is going, I've been in therapy for fucking 5 years. That was not done at all. You've got these people that are these massive celebrities that, sell out fucking arenas all over the world. And they're like, yeah, I've been in therapy since I was a fucking kid. And then, through listening to more episodes, you find out that there is truth to that. And they talk about how fucked their childhood was. And like, you're getting these this picture of people when we were kids and all the, we thought all these people were larger than life. And so that whole isolation and removal from, we felt so different, so whatever, because you saw these amazing, whereas like, the podcast and them being, honest and genuine and everything, we're realizing I am just like that dude. Like, he's popular and has this massive following or whatever, but like the shit he's talking about is the same fucking shit I've dealt with. Yeah, exactly.
And
I think that's huge for the movement.
And I think it's great. I mean, look, the one that I was listening to the other day was my partner loves Lewis Capaldi, and he was on Diary of a CEO, and which was originally, I think, a business podcast. And it's now literally a mental health podcast. If you ask me, every single one of his latest interviews has been that, and you're starting to see that shift in people. And I love the stories not about people that have been through trauma as such, because trauma is a massive predictor of struggling with your mental health and suicide and things like that. And I really empathize with those people, but I always find the ones that are most fascinating are the people that are actually have had normal upbringings and normal life. And for me, that shows you that fucking mental health does not discriminate.
No, man.
Me and Richie talk about our own experiences quite a lot, and I hope Richie doesn't mind me sharing this, but Richie's background, you can kind of tie yours back to a sort of traumatic event. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
My life was fucking bliss, man. I grew up on the beach. I had horses. I got taught to surf. I played footy. I had great mates. My life was bliss. It didn't fucking matter. Like, I still ended up having mental health challenges.
I've heard someone talk about this before and say that sometimes that's its own trauma, though. In a way 100%. That it's like because the expectations on you in that situation, and that you are like that's either bestowed upon you from a personal level or by those around you, because it's like, look, you've been given everything. How come you're not fucking smashing it? Your mum going, how come you haven't built a house yet? That becomes its own trauma.
For sure. And I was a really talented footballer, and it was a lot of self-expectation put on me. It's like, why didn't I make it? And that was a traumatic period for me. That was my perception of it. But this is the whole thing that I think that's starting to break down these whole stereotypes around mental health is a weakness, or, I'm strange because I experience these sorts of thoughts. It's like, fuck me, man. It comes from a gamut of human experiences, whether it's trauma from childhood, sexual abuse, family breakups or a perfect childhood that eventuates that you put so many self-expectations on yourself that you see yourself as a failure.
Or even as such, it can be genetic as well. I mean, it
Yeah.
can actually, mental health is in genes. So it can be passed from generation to generation as well. So, I mean, this is why it's so tricky, right? And it's an individual approach between everything. Yes, we've got plans and structures in place that help us, sort of look at it, in almost a holistic point of view now. But there's not one script, or there's not one size fits all for everyone. And I think that's why it's so important to get. Well, I'm a big believer in getting to understand your whys. Like if we can start understanding about ourselves and where the mental health may be stemming from initially, it gives us a far better approach at trying to work through it and getting on top of it, and then, as I like to say, flipping it on ourselves to make it into a strength or a superpower as such.
Yeah, and it's also like not just the actual bring up, but like the bringing up of the child or whatever, but it could also be like processed food that is causing problems, and then sugar in all your drinks and like actual physical problems like that cause it.
It's multifactorial. And
I've got this massive thing. Like I'm lactose intolerant. Well, probably not, but I get the shits. When
you don't like it. Yeah.
My body doesn't seem to like it too much. I've tried to push through it for the next generation, but it hasn't worked. But like, you tie some things back to, like if I have a bad day where like I've eaten out of what my normal. Mate, I'm fucking dog shit the next day. My head's cloudy, my mental health's worse. There's a whole bunch of stuff that the weather, man, is a massive component of it. Like, it's been really interesting. I've had a lot of people reach out lately because there's been such steep fluctuations. It's gone up. It's hot 1 minute, it's cold the next.
Mate, that fucks with people.
The whole seasonal depression thing, basically, isn't it?
Well, it's seasonal affective disorder, so it comes into winter and you generally get more depressed. And it's you've got to look at everything that come into play.
And I think it's probably important to just highlight here too. Like, I think a lot of people potentially see mental health as like we're cruising along on this normal plane, and then suddenly it's like a cliff edge, like bang, it just hits us straight away. But generally, if you look back, some of these things what we just talked about might be actually building up, small amounts over a long period of time.
Absolutely.
So we're just slowly chipping away to the point we don't actually know what's going on until we get to a point we're going, hang on, something's fucking not right. So that could be the diet going out the window first, that then affects sleep quality, and that affects motivation, which stops us exercising, which then goes, fuck it, I'll sit on the couch and drink beer instead. And then, this could be over a 1, 2, 3 year period, depending on the individual. And then it's like, oh, hang on now. So it's really hard to then turn around and go, so where did this all stem from? Where did it start? Well, you know what? It could have sort of started to kick in back as far as 3 years ago, but we're only noticing it now. It could have developed from trauma and lay dormant for 20, 30, 40 years.
Jeez, we're getting into a deep chat about psychological theory.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to actually give a really good story here, and I'm sorry, Erica, I'm going to speak on your behalf, but a perfect example of exactly what you're saying, right? So my partner, she's going to be like, you fucking, nah, but I know she wants to come in here and talk about this herself one day, so fuck it, I'm going to kind of tell her a story beforehand.
Hi, Erica, hope you're doing well.
But, her own journey, obviously, like had traumas from her childhood. And then when we got together, like I always noticed that anxiety, played a big part in kind of her personality and her decisions and things like that. And I always kind of knew it was there. And it was funny that like she kind of probably was in a little bit of denial about it, to the point that like people would tell her about their anxiety and she'll be like, yeah, that's not me. And I'd be sitting there like, are you fucking, like, who are you even listening to like the thing? So like, all of that kind of culminated at the beginning of this year when she ended up getting quite sick, and everything just came to a head, and she ended up like having like a really bad patch with like having massive panic attacks or whatever. And it was like the realization that she had it through that experience, and then starting to go to counseling and things like that, was like, I do have an anxiety like problem, and I did have it this whole time. And it was like crazy to think of, that's how long the journey can be. You know what I mean? Like something that she looks back even at high school days and goes, all of those things I feel I'm now aware of now that I do, that actually did exist in all of that time. 100%. It was even so bad, she went and saw a counsellor years ago, and they were like, I think there's a lot of stuff in childhood that you probably need to have a look at. And she came home, she was like, that fucking woman didn't know what she was talking about, whatever, like, I'm not going back there. And I was like, all right, look, it's got to be up to you. if you want to take, I'm not going to ever push you to go and do these things. And I'm glad that you went. And if you don't think it's for you, and now she's back there going, yeah, I got to work through it. It's just crazy how much, you know, and sometimes I think, again, you know, we can talk about the preventative stuff, but I feel like there's an element of it, and you guys can speak on this probably better. Sometimes it takes a crisis moment.
Yeah,
I feel
100%.
for like, you know, sometimes all of that stuff festers under the surface. And me who like, again, someone who understood exactly what she was going through and tried every fucking way to frame it to be like, hey, like, I think these are the things you're going through. It took that catastrophe to go, oh, fuck, you're right.
Well, just two things out of that for me is, number one, Erica, we never blame ourselves, because the old saying is, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not until hindsight's a wonderful thing, right?
Absolutely.
Once we start educating ourselves or getting a bit of backing, we have a bit of buy-in, we go, oh, geez, okay, now I can see the path, you know. But in the time when you're walking through those periods of time in your life, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And any support giver also who then feels guilty, whether it's a parent, a mum, dad, brother, sister, whatever, goes, you know what, the signs were there, but we just didn't know. Well, that's fine, because you didn't know what you don't know, but you know now.
Yeah.
Right? So now it becomes manageable, right? There was another thing, but I can't remember it right now. So
Well, it's kind of like really about learning how to like work on yourself and how you need to perceive things to get better. It's almost like we had a guest on a couple of weeks, a month or two ago now. Shout out to Nick Batar from the Better Project.
Cool.
He actually mentioned this really cool saying or
talk about
phrase. And instead of calling it mental health, he likes to call it mental fitness.
Yeah.
And it's something that you're constantly working on and trying to better and learn how you're going to get yourself better.
Yeah.
And I think that's really... It's
Becoming quite a popular term.
I like it,
It's
yeah.
starting to get built, because it is sort of trying to move away from that. And it is a skill set, you know, like, you know, some of the best skills I ever learnt were in therapy and learnings. But it's, you know, I find it really interesting as well, is like, you know, you talk about that experience of that, was it Erica?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a fascinating thing, because like the human condition and the ability for us to keep moving forward despite distress can sometimes actually be our worst enemy.
Absolutely.
Like the coping abilities and you know, exposure therapy is one of the most proven psychological principles, that if I expose somebody to something for a period of time, eventually they become accustomed to it.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot with people that come in to seek assistance, is they're like, oh, you know, nah, these things are kind of normal. And you're like, fuck me, dude, they're not normal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but you've considered them normal.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a there's a part there of not wanting to accept as well, because now we accept that there's a problem.
Yes.
And now we've got to do some work as well.
Yeah.
But then by accepting that there's a problem makes us indifferent, and then can feel isolating as well, because we don't want to be labelled like that.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
So it's a hard struggle at times too, because you know, you don't want to go around and be going, oh, so yeah, so I've got anxiety, or, you know, so
Absolutely,
look, hi, my name's Erica, or hi, my name's Richie, I've got depression.
Yeah.
Hi, I've been just diagnosed with autism, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially for a young person, that's just going to open up, like, fucking bullies, come get
Exactly,
me.
man.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But that's-
so there's a very fine line here, but look, I mean, taking that part, you know, we'll strip that away. It's so important to address these things and not feel that way.
Yeah.
Because,
man.
you know, when we become trapped inside of our own heads, right? Worst place to be.
100%, man.
That feeling of
Get fucked, I love it up here.
but that feeling of isolation, loneliness, then, you know, let's bring in
Yeah.
self-worth and self-worthlessness, and all these other factors that start then contributing.
Yeah.
You know, we're on a downward spiral before we know. So
100%, man.
it's
And
about-
feeling like a burden to your friends. Even though, like, there's been many times that I've felt like that, and I've said to him, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And he goes, I can't believe you went so long without saying
something.
anything.
Yeah.
And this is the big thing, is like, so much of my research is around suicide outcomes and, you know, feeling like a burden, perceived burdensomeness. And, you know, these are, not weakness, worthlessness, entrapment. These are all perceived constructs that people have prior to taking their lives. And then when you talk to the family members, they're like, I can't believe they saw things this way. And it's so interesting because that is a cognitive creation. That is your perception that you've created, and fundamentally it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because you see that evidence, and then, you know, why did that person take their life? And it's like, well, they perceived that that's how they felt. And so such a fascinating, the human brain is, you know, like, we don't know enough about it yet, to be honest.
we still don't.
We've touched the surface, and that's an exciting part about psychology as well.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, you know, if you have friends and good friends that understand your characteristics or whatever the thing may be, if you're starting to present seriously, then they're going to be the ones to say, hey, bro, are you okay? Or, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right? And, this is the prime opportunity where if we've got to understand as individuals, if external people are noticing those changes in us, we need to probably listen to that and go, hang on, now my perception, the way people are seeing me, my actions are now being noticed. Well, and we're already feeling it within inside of us. And now externally it's presenting. It's
that's
like,
when you know it's
it's now time to start addressing it for sure.
No, it's so important what you said as well about the, that when people don't want to have be labelled or whatever that thing, and that's been a fear for a lot of people. And I think what's so important is that as this movement, progresses, that's going to get easier because people aren't going to be afraid of that label or afraid of that thing. And you can already start to, and it's probably part of what helped Erica is that for so long in the past, that would have been the scariest thing was, to have a problem. Whereas now, and especially when she was confronted with it, she was like, no, the scariest thing is what I'm fucking dealing with right now. I don't care what I'm fucking labeled with. I want to work through this and get the help. And again, where it takes that massive thing to go through to be like, that's not as scary as the panic attack that I was having last night or this feeling that I've got intrinsically at the moment. That's now scary. And I don't want to have that again. So tell me what I've got to do. Tell me fucking what's wrong with me and let's do the work. I think getting to that point might hopefully be easier. And if we can try and find a way to not have people have fucking rock bottom to get there, that, start doing that work, picking up on those signs earlier. So say when she went to that first counsellor and they said, hey, I think it's these things, maybe that is the start of her turning point then when she goes, oh yeah, fuck. Instead of it taking another 3 years and a huge crash in her mental health to get there, I think if we can start people wanting to accept or as you said, the mental fitness thing is so important because when you say mental health, well, what do you do to fix health? You treat it. So it's like more of like a treatment basis thing. Whereas when you think about fitness, it's like, just do it. Like, just do it. If
like
that's
doing this,
yeah,
right?
that's right. If it's journaling, if it's
you doing there, mate?
if it's journaling, if it's you're like thinking about the impact of your diet on your like mental health and being conscious of all of those things as being a part of your mental fitness. The push towards that is going to make such a big difference.
Well, now we're talking about well-being and self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this is where, it takes a bit of education on someone's behalf to help install some of these tools to give the person confidence to be able to, start, acting on these things within themselves. So like for me, a big thing is becoming self-aware. Why am I feeling like this? Or just being aware of your body and what it's doing. So an example would be, say, me recently, the heart's starting to feel like I'm not having a heart attack, but I'm getting tight in the chest. I'm cramping. I'm starting to sweat. I'm starting to get, muscle tremors. My thinking's not clear. Hang on. I'm under duress. I'm under absolute distress right now and something needs to be done. Okay. So, I could, or anyone could just go, oh no, she'll be right. Classic old school remedy. But it's then going, well, hang on, I'm self-aware that these things are happening internally. There's obviously, I know I'm under stress and all these things are happening. So what do I need to do? And, my diet's been out. Well, first of all, get off to the doctor or consult your professional straight away if you're getting to that crisis point. But in the meantime, and it's something I talk about with the apprentices a lot too, right? So let's say we've gone through the whole process. I don't know if we need to go over it, but let's say we've had the chat with the boys from the Next Step and we've taken their advice and we've got off to the GP. We've booked a double appointment. We've done our mental health assessment. We've got on a mental health care plan. The Next Step boys have been good enough to provide a referral to a psychologist that they might think they're going to get that therapeutic alliance straight away. Cool. Right. We're booked in for a session. We sit there, we pour our heart out for an hour. Right, time's up, cool. No worries, what do I do to a next appointment? Okay, so this is where the mental fitness, the well-being and the self-awareness has to come into play. We need to process what our professionals just told us, like we're breaking that down and looking at strategies on how to better cope in the situation we are. But then what small things are we doing during the days and the weeks and in our routines to maintain ourselves to get to the next appointment without spiraling? Okay.
100.
And for me, it's a touch point of everything. And again, little bits at a time, especially with someone who's already overwhelmed, but we're looking at, what does our routine look like? Have we got to set up get up time? Have we got to set bedtime? What does our diet and nutrition look like? Because, you know, having a good diet, believe it or not, does fuel the body, fuels the mind, right?
Oh, makes
Yeah.
What's our sleep and sleep quality look like? Well, that partially could even be helped with a better bedtime routine. We're retraining the brain to say it's lights out at 10 o'clock no matter what.
Yeah.
Not 9 or 10 or 12 or 11 or whenever the fuck I feel
Yeah,
like.
not scrolling TikTok for 2.5 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah,
off social media at least an hour before, the blue light interrupting our melatonin processes, you know, and keeping a structured routine so the body and the brain actually is going, oh shit, he's getting ready for bed. Okay,
Not doing podcasts at 9 o'clock at night.
not doing
When you live 4.5 fucking decades away.
I've still got 45 minutes and I'm taking a shit brushing my teeth.
But there's another part to it too as well, though. Like, it's interesting you talk about that mental fitness, but mental health, everybody has it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that you like to talk about as well, but like, it's so frustrating to people talk about mental health like it's this unique experience. We've all got it. Like, and you know, people can have a mental what's diagnosed by the DSM fucking whatever it is now, based on a whole bunch of life experiences. It doesn't mean that you stay in that category.
Talk about the continuum. Talk
Yeah,
about the
but it
continuum.
is. It's a
Go.
mental health continuum. It's up and down, you know, and you slide up and down. Like, I've been diagnosed. I got diagnosed at 14 with obsessive compulsive disorder, but I sure as shit wouldn't sit myself 90% of the time in a poor mental health state. I'm actually functioning really well, and it's like, well, that's cool. But somebody that's got no diagnosis can also be struggling just shit, and it can be based on a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, and as a perfect example, the four bodies sitting around this table, we all woke up this morning with a different mental health experience, right? You know, some of us probably woke up feeling like this is the best fucking day ever. Some of us may have woken up going, fuck, another day, I can't be fucked, right? That doesn't necessarily mean a mental health condition's in play. It just means that's how we're feeling at the time. That's what our mental fitness is telling us. I'm feeling good today, I'm feeling bad today, right? So, and this is what Simmo's talking about. You know, if we look at good down one end, bad down the other end, we've got a continuum where we're constantly sliding up and down, hourly, minutely, daily, depending on interactions and conversations. If someone's pissed us off, whether someone's provided some validation and made us feel good, whatever, we're doing that all day. All right, now we'll go pick up a mental health condition or difficulty and chuck it in there. So let's throw, you know, depression or anxiety, PTSD, BPD, whatever. Let's throw something in there. Now that is starting to look a little bit different. All right. We might be sliding down the scale in far further extremes. We might have this depression condition, but we're presenting really good all the time.
Yeah.
But no one would know.
Exactly. Yeah,
Do you know
because
what I mean?
some people get really good at hiding it, don't they?
Or someone could have
It's the biggest skill in the world. I think anybody with a mental health
100. Yeah, we can
That's
talk
so
about the
skilled,
faces, and I think that's an important thing to talk about, the different faces of mental health. But you know, so that's another perfect example there. We're I guess we're stigmatized, and we think that depression is this really sad, down and out type of thing. And to a degree, yes, it is. But there are genuine people out there that when they're running on their highs, they're the happiest, most go-lucky, presenting smiles and all that, and you would never know.
Yeah.
All right. But then at home later that night, they're down this end of the scale in a severe
The
change
lows are
to-
incredibly low. Yeah.
to the tears and to the discomfort, and even to the point of suicidal ideation, or even maybe putting plans in place to take their life. You know, and then it can swing back the other way in an hour.
100%, because they're carrying that weight with them even when they are presenting that they're joyful.
That's right.
You know?
And just as a normal person can wake up with poor mental health on any given day.
Yeah.
I just feel shit.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to. It's fine.
100%.
Yeah.
But tomorrow you might, you know, be back to normal in your middle range, or you might be having a good day and you might be up here. So it's
So I think that's the thing, is what we're trying to get across, and what the normalization component is trying to say is that it's like anybody can experience a mental health challenge. I don't even like to use the term condition anymore. It's like a mental illness. It's funny because and fundamentally I very rarely actually, even within clinical practice, diagnose people. I try to stay away from it because I'm like, you know what? Like, you know, you've got behavior traits that may indicate this, and we might use it as a bit of framework to help you. But fuck me, like, it's not going to define who you are.
No.
And,
Because people think of an illness as like a, you know, and especially with mental illnesses, they're like, oh, that's me forever now kind of thing. And so they feel like it puts them in this box. Whereas if you go, look, I think that some of the signs that you're exerting, you know, sort of seem to align with this framework, as you said. And that's what we're going to use to try and, you know, some of the tools that help people that are struggling with this are the things that we're going to use to help you with this. That just comes across so much differently to like, oh, cool. And then, you know, there may be a point in time where we're only needing to use, you know, we have to employ all of these things from this framework initially.
Yeah.
But then eventually we only need 2 steps of it because you're actually able to make that progress. And I think
100%.
that's so much of it is like the understanding that and I've been going through it with Erica now, you know, when she went through that, everything has been like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, but if you keep putting these things in place, it will get easier.
Shit, yeah. And look, and therapy and working on yourself, like it's the hardest thing you ever do. Like it is fucking hard work. Like having to show up once a fortnight or whenever you can get in, it's like, fuck, you know, I got to bare my soul again, or I got to put the work in. But I think that's the whole thing, is that it's like it fucking progressively does get better. You know, you fight your way out of it, and sometimes like the biggest thing I see is that people fucking don't see the benefits because you're living it. And it's like, I think that's where social media and shit's so frustrating for me, because, you know, you get this whole happiness trap component of fucking everything's meant to be rainbows and sunshines. But it's like, mate, fucking remember what you were 2 weeks ago where you couldn't even get out of bed? Well, now you're managing to get your appointments, or fucking hell, you know, you got up and brushed your teeth today. Fuck yeah.
That's having that perspective, man.
Fucking oath.
And just to touch on that too, like I think, you know, Simmo was talking about the cognitive behavioural therapies and, you know, restructuring paths in our brains, I guess, to, you know, steer away or, you know, to improve our mental health or our mental fitness in ways that better suit us. And Brett actually shared a clip to a page. It's a video. It's probably way down, but there's a whiteboard and you'll see orange on it if you're looking for it. But he talks about the long grass metaphor, and it was given to him by psychologists. And I use this a lot, and we may have talked about it. Are you nodding?
Yeah, about that last time?
I've talked about it on the podcast, I think, after I was on the live with you.
Yeah.
And I actually used that with Erica. As soon as I got off the live with you, I went to her. I was like, wake the fuck up, bitch. I got something cool to tell you.
Refresh everybody about it,
and
though.
it really did help her. So, go in on it.
Look, I guess in a roundabout way, we'll think of our thoughts as travelling down a grassy field, right? And we're following a track that we can see quite clearly. So anyone out there, close your eyes. We're in a nice grassy field, knee-length grass, and we're on...
now is a meditation. This guy's everything. Right?
And take a deep breath in through the nose and hold and out through the mouth. So we're walking along the path, and now we come to our crux. There comes a point where we need to make a choice or a decision based around something that's going on. For an addict, it might be whether I have a beer or not. It might be whether I pick up the pipe or not, is whether I have a snort or not. It could be anything. It could be, do I want to have this argument? Do I want to have this conversation? Whatever it may be. We're so used to turning right. Okay, so we're out, if the camera's on, so we've hit that point and there is a Y junction here, but for whatever reason over time, we've naturally progressed to go down the path of what we're normally doing, okay? Which is maybe a coping mechanism or whatever it may be. But what happens is that grass has been pushed over, right? And that's how the track looks easiest followed. It's the path of least resistance. But at some point, that path, the other path, the left path, was there, okay? But it's just that the grass has grown over it and we can't see it anymore. So when it comes time to restructuring that thought process, we've got to walk that path again. We know it's there. We've got to trudge through all the long grass. It's resistant, it's hard work, it's dirty, it's grimy. We don't like it, but we eventually get to the end and go, that wasn't so bad, but fuck, that was hard.
This is where I needed to be.
So day resets and we're walking the path again. Now, the right path is still quite visible because we've walked it so many times, but that path is now just a little bit easier seen because we've walked it. So we decide to make the decision to walk it again. All right. So long story short here, the more we trudge through the long grass, the more we push it over, the more the track becomes seen. What happens to the path on the right? The grass starts growing back, and now that starts becoming the path of resistance. Yeah. And the left path, the path we want to redirect to, is now the path of least resistance. But it takes time, right? And it takes practice. It takes mental fitness. Just like you're at the gym. You're not going to get fucking thighs rubbing together like this and there's a tub of butter between his legs every time.
Unless you're in here doing squats, brother.
You don't get born with that shit. He's working it out every fucking day. And it's the same with, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, it's the same shit we've got to do with our brain. especially if we've got the motivation and energy to be able to do it.
Well,
And we're not going to nail it every time.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And
Yeah,
that's
a
okay.
big thing. Yeah.
Right, it is a big thing, and that is okay. And we shouldn't beat ourselves up. Sometimes we are going to go, fuck it, I just need to take that easier path for today. But as long as the next time we're fucking back on the trudgy path and pushing that grass over, then experience good.
Yeah. And once again, then that harps back to what we were saying just before, going, all right, having all these things in your life and all these, it might be a sport. So let's say it is, BJJ in your case, you're like, all right, I want to go out there, and not going out there can then cause that that path to become foggy.
Yeah, 100%. And it can be applied to so many different aspects in our lives, conversations with loved ones. I always conversate this way, and I hate it because it always results in conflict, or it always results in me not getting what I want, or I don't feel heard, or whatever. What's the other path? Or what's the path that we need to work? Maybe we go talk to Simmo, or your psychologist, or a counsellor, or a friend who's got the lived experience and has been there and understands it, and we can communicate on that level and go, hey, why don't you try this? There's always an alternative as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just about doing the work, unfortunately.
man.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to say is one of the first lessons that Erica got taught, and I'm sorry, baby, for going in on fucking your entire life story.
Yeah, she needs to be
Yeah, she does, man.
I know. But one of the first things that she got taught was like doing the work when you're good is more important than doing the work in crisis mode.
And that's the hardest thing to learn.
And she, for, better or worse, didn't listen to that properly in those early, days of being confronted with, okay, I've got to do this work, and was constantly, doing it to get herself back to that plateau of feeling good, and then slowly the work starts to fall away. And for her, and for a lot of people, it was made up of, obviously your fitness, your diet, and this is the thing as well, is it's not a one thing. It's not just going to therapy. It's not just getting medication. It's not just any of these things.
It's not just exercising.
No, that's right. So it is and on any given day, one can have more effect on how you're feeling that day than the other. And I think that was a big thing for her learning, was obviously, so that going to the counselling definitely helped. And then, she was doing the work initially with making sure she was exercising, and then like journaling and meditating and things like that as well. But then, as she started to get better, the effort into those things started to drop off a bit. And then she'd have another, couple of bad days, and I'd be like, get back to the thing. And I said, and do it when you're feeling good, because that's when you can really, I feel personally, you can train your brain and rewire your brain better from that good level. Because that's when you really believe in the things that you're telling yourself.
The hormones are right too, right? Because
Yeah.
you're feeling good for a reason.
Yeah. And I always say, because I always explain to her, I'm like, you got to think of with anxiety especially, and hopefully people can get something from this. If you think of yourself as like the level of anxiety that you're carrying around, like on a sort of a scale, right? So, if you're sitting at a 7 or an 8 where she was for a big chunk of time, well, from a 7 or an 8 to panic attack is a fucking inch away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the work when you get down to a 7 and you're like, oh, I'm actually feeling better. But then that's when the work becomes so important to get yourself down to a 3. Because from 3 to a panic attack is fucking huge. And that's going to take something really, big to happen, or, for the work to fall away for a big chunk of time. Because if you can get yourself down to that 3 and then eventually again, down to a 1 or a 0, which is possible. And now she started to have that experience of like, oh yeah, I can really, do the work and get myself down there. And I'm like, you have to understand, like, so when she was feeling defeated, I'm like, but you were already you're walking around with a 7 out of 10, Yeah. So of course 10 feels like it's fucking knocking on your door constantly every time you try to go to bed at night. I'm like, because you've got to make sure that you're doing that daily work when the 7 feels manageable, because you've just lived at a fucking 7 for most of your life. Get yourself down to a 1 and see how hard it feels to get back up to that level.
But then when you are a 1, not stopping still. Because the continuum, you
And
end up...
that's a big thing. Like, look, I fall into that. I'm terrible for it. Like, you'd think I'd be better as a psychologist knowing the benefits, but, I'm really shit at maintaining, going to see people. And it's like, fucking, sometimes you got to do. I mean, I'm lucky because I've got structures and routines that I've built over years, and I'm like, that helps me, and I know that I can cope with that and I'll get through. But yeah, fucking, you've just got to keep going. Like, it's so normalized over in the States. It's quite amusing. Like, going to see a shrink, as they like to call them over there, or a therapist, is fucking, everyone does it.
Yeah.
It's so much more normal. Here in Australia, it's saying you're going to see a psychologist is still something that's seen out of the ordinary. And it's like, mate, you can go, you know, I know Richie will talk about it probably, but going for growth, you know, like there's so much to learn. You know, I think some of them are my most exciting clients that I've seen is people that actually aren't in there because they're, you know, seeing me for a specific mental health challenge. They're actually just in there because they're like, dude, I want to be a better partner. I want to be better at work. I want to be a better sportsman, you know, fucking all those types of things.
What you said before, sorry, just very quickly, then I'll let you go. What you said before actually struck a chord about the bloke that goes, or, you know, even go, oh, they're not going to be ready for what I've. Yeah. That actually like gave me like a physical ill feeling because I've heard that from my own family members and whatever that I've tried to suggest, like, you know, maybe you should go and talk through these, you know, horrific and whatever things that you've gone through. Oh, they won't. And I'm like, that really struck a chord because that must exist so much that people, again, just...
I would almost reframe that and go, well, go tell them and freak them the fuck out.
That's
and
right.
see what happens, you know?
Trust me, we want to hear. That's the whole thing. Like, and you know, like there may be psychologists out there that haven't heard that unique component of it, but man, I've sat in with some people that have had some alternative sort of thought processes, but it's not that unique, you know, like out of the ordinary. Is like, you know, I can guarantee you're not Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, you know,
that's right. Yeah.
It's all good. And if you are, go and get some help for it, you know, like, and that's what's so strange. It's like, that's what we're here for. And you know, psychologists don't judge, man. Like, well, they shouldn't. And if they do, go fucking find another one that's
that's right. Yeah.
With Erica, we'll go back just to remind. So Erica's down to a 1 and normalisation around getting off and keeping these routines. And I think it's really important, even for me, to share that, you know, I still go see a psychologist every 2 months, all right?
Yep.
And it's just something I do as part of my routine. And there's a couple of reasons for it. The reason A being is that I just fucking like it.
Yeah,
all right. I don't necessarily go because there's anything wrong, so to speak.
Richie just likes to talk about himself.
If you couldn't tell.
Lucky I've got a good psychologist. He pumps my tyres. No, he does. Actually, does the opposite sometimes. Put yourself back on the ground.
He keeps it real for you, bro.
Yeah, he does. But look, I don't go there necessarily because there's anything going wrong in my life, so to speak. I'm at crisis point. I'm going because on the days when I'm good. You know, and then we can reframe around why things are going good and how do we do that more often and we stay down at that one level. But then, you know, for me also, I get a real kick out of growth mindset, you know, so I'm going there, you know, yeah, sure, we'll just see what comes up, you know, and I think addressing, you know, it's a big thing for me and Simmo and I talk about it. You know, if we're doing these regular appointments in consistent fashion, we're on top of things, right? And then in a roundabout way, we're also creating that self-awareness. But when we can feel those little problems coming up, right, if we're not attending, those little problems start manifesting and then we start hitting crisis point, okay? So for me personally, if I'm going every 2 months, I'm tackling those little things. Oh, shit, I didn't realise that was going to come up.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the question may be, well, how are you going to deal with that? Oh, well, I'll deal with that by X, Y, and Z. And you go, okay, that's really good, but did you think about plan B as well? Oh, right, yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, get into it before it grows out.
100%. So we're addressing them before, again, we're addressing things before anything reaches crisis point and we're talking it out. We're almost like pre-setting the gameplay before grand final day.
Yeah.
And I'm out there already kicking goals because I've done the practice, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's just really important to share that part. But look, there is obviously that stigma around, in Australia especially, us blokes getting off to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counsellor or whatever, because, you know, it's been deemed in these stigmas around that, oh, fuck, you're a fuck up, there's something wrong. Like this, well, you know, it's almost a taboo type talk. And I mean, they are the barriers we're definitely trying to, you know, extinguish or at least drop a little bit to say, guys, you know what, it's actually not that fucking bad. Like, we do it and we're not, you know, well-rounded, fucking perfect fucking citizens. I'll give you the hot tip, but I'd hate to know where I'd be at with my mental health if I didn't go see one.
Exactly. Well, that's what I like about Next Step so much. The fact that it's literally, you're not these dudes in suits like we were saying before, and you're just real people, and it's just like an Instagram message away. You don't have to wait 2 months, and that's one of my favorite things about it.
Yeah.
And look, there are fucking psychologists out there that you know, down to earth, normal people that fucking, you know, like, I think that's the strange
Talking
thing.
about yourself or
Not me. I'm definitely not normal. But, you know, like, that's the whole thing is like, you'll find that person out there. And I still think there's that conception of like, you know, I might go out there and I might share something and they're going to, you know,
commit me or something like that.
think I'm
And it's
weird
like,
or-
no, it's, you know,
It's
we're
a safe
here.
space. That's
It's
the
a
biggest
really
thing.
safe space.
Yeah.
And I think we've got friends in the mental health space, and one of them, I'll mention his name. His name's Nathan Bolton. He's a keynote speaker, does a lot of work around Adelaide. And I really liked one of the part of his talk where he said, you know, he went through a team of psychologists, you know, maybe I think it was up to 5 or something. And he had this preconceived notion that he just hated them, you know, like they couldn't help him type thing. That almost that, they won't understand what I'm going through, you know, that type
And
of
he
thing.
had a unique experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're only sharing probably a fraction of his story, of course, but you can check him out. But the psychologist he finally connected to, he basically sat down, he sort of says, and Nath, if you're listening, I hope it does this justice, but he sort of sits down with this, you know, real cocky
Bravado,
attitude,
yeah.
like, you know, sort of sitting back. You
How
know,
are
I'm
you
sure
gonna
if he
fucking help
smoked, he'd
me?
beef. Yeah, and he basically said exactly that. So what are you going to do for me, you know? And the psychologist, apparently a female, she just turned to him and goes, Nathan, this is not about me. This is about you. So what do you want from me?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, fuck. Didn't have the answer. And she sort of then framed and said, well, you're obviously here for a reason. You got in the car, you drove here, you're now sitting in a chair. What do you want? And he'd never really been asked that question. And look, I think it is important, part of it, and that's where we come into play too. You know, we listen to what's going on, and then we'll sort of say, you know, not everyone needs to get off to see a psychologist, let's be honest, that contacts us. But every now and then it is, have you thought about, or this is the process, would you be keen to engage? Well, if you are, here's some options, you know, and then in a roundabout way, it's up to them. But it's really good, I think it's personally a really good thing to actually have an idea of what you need to, or what you're going in there to address.
Yeah.
Because
for
again,
sure,
we sort of touched on, I don't know if we were on air, but in a roundabout way, we're going in there for answers, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we're looking for people that understand our problems and we want to work through these things.
Yeah.
So if we've going in there knowing what we want to work on, the anxiety, the depression, the relationship, better communication, conflict resolution, whatever it might be, you know, we're going in there with a bit of a preconceived notion of, I want to get something out of this.
Yeah.
We're
100%.
fucking paying the bill.
Yeah.
Let's get our money's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
exactly.
mean? So
Yeah.
that's where it's at, I think, for me.
And I think that's probably a perfect segue into the question that I asked 50 minutes ago about the direction of Next Step now. Obviously, you mentioned, you know, the work that you guys are doing in the space. Let's talk about what's been happening since the last time we caught up. What is the direction now, and where are we heading, and what do we want to achieve?
Yeah. So look, how long has it been? It's been over a year.
Yeah, it's been
Did you
over a
guys-
year. I think. I reckon it was.
Wait, was it
May-
really a year ago?
Yeah, it would have been.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were
Talking about the length of
40
the
episodes.
podcast.
I wasn't looking down there like, all right, it's been, you know, 1 hour.
been a year.
How long has it been since we've sat? Sorry, actually, there's my
Really? It's
Yeah,
been
no,
a
it's been a
year.
year for sure. I reckon it was like
Wow,
maybe
okay.
July or something last
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Well, we probably, not secretly, but we probably didn't even know what we were doing ourselves at that point. Look, I think it's really important to point out here, we've never really had an actual direction of where we perceive Next Step is going to be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just set up for a few mates. That's where we
I nailed
wanted
that. July 21st.
July
There we
21st, there you go.
So I do know something about the podcast.
He does know
They
something.
knew the name and episode number, but I
and
knew
you
the
knew the
fucking
time.
time.
Well done, bro.
100%.
So, something that I've always been, I guess, proud of is that we've just let the page, well, we call it a page because it was on Instagram, but we can call it a brand now or whatever you want to call it. But we've just let it grow organically. You know, we've never
Yeah.
tried to align with anyone. We've never tried to ride on anyone else's coattails. We've never sort of really seek support or advice from anything in a roundabout way. We've just gone, you know what? It will serve its purpose within its capacity, and that capacity also stems from how much time we as individuals can put into it. But then in around April 2021, a mate of mine, and we can touch on this. So he's anonymous, and I'm slowing that down because I really struggled to get that word out.
Fuck
before
it.
we-
You still fucked him, bro.
I didn't fuck it. No, I didn't.
did. You said
anonymous.
That's wrong.
Is it?
Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Say it again.
And so it's an N and then an N. So anonymous.
Anonymous.
Yay! And wrap up the pod, guys. He said it correctly. We're done.
Right, so don't come to me for speech therapy.
It's epic.
Well, I'm just going to say a mate outside,
Mr. A,
an external,
Mr.
Mr.
A.
A.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. So Mr. A found out what I was doing, or we were doing, with the page. Now, Mr. A was a good friend of mine from school. We'd known each other for a long time, but like any good friendships, over time life gets busy, and we'd sort of not grown apart, but there was just a lack of communication, and we were mixing in different friend circles. Now, without going deep and heavy, but in a roundabout way, when I was younger, Mr. A had a significant role in saving my life. So when I was going through my worst point of depression and basically at the point of taking my life, he intervened. Now, go back 24 years ago, we understand that mental health wasn't really talked about, or as 19-year-olds, as a mate, how the fuck would he know how to intervene? All right?
Yeah.
Now, the reason why he knew how to intervene, because his uncle, his mother's brother, had taken his life by suicide. All right? So he was starting to notice traits in me, feeding that information back to his mum. His mum was then, I guess, diagnosing that, filling him with information and knowledge, and then taking that back. And, so in a roundabout way, I was being double played without even knowing it. Yeah. And then it got to a point that, they basically, my Mr. A intervened. And then the next morning, Mr. A's mum was on my doorstep, and that's where my help came from and got me through that time. Yeah. So he's very passionate about this as well. And then, Next Step was obviously around my passion from getting through my experience and helping others. So, both Simmo and I always talk about, we've always helped people, friends, family, whatever, before Next Step was even, a thought. It's just something we did because of that lived experience approach. So Mr. A found out what we were doing, and he rings me and he goes, I love what you're doing. What are you doing with it? How can I get involved? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, let's just sit down and have a meeting. Let's do something. I'll just think it's great what you're doing for the community. Okay, cool. So I rang Simmo, rang Brett. We went and met with Mr. A. He's like, where's the direction for this? Where are you going? I'm like, three. Yeah. As I always say.
You're like, we've got an Instagram page. Like,
3 bogans from the coast. I'm like, oh.
We've
got an Instagram page. We're just helping some mates, and we go out and do a few talks. And he goes, no, but you actually, boys, are onto something here. Like, this is really important stuff you're getting out in the community. I want to help promote or do whatever I can. And I said, all right, well, and look, Mr. A's been quite successful in business, and so's his family, so they had some funds there, whatnot. And he said, I'll tell you what, we'll start by, here's a template, so to speak. I want you to write me a business plan. Yeah. And I said, all right, cool. I said, when do you expect this? He goes, whenever. I said, well, again, the capacity, how much time we can put in, we'll see how we go. It took me a year. So, so 2021, April to April this year. Yeah. I finally finished the draft copy of our business plan, sent it to Simmo. Simmo edited it. We think we captured everything. So I went, yeah, right, we'll send it off to Mr. A. Mr. A looked at it and said, right, let's set this up. Yeah. And I'm like, set that up? What do you mean? He goes, we're gonna build you into a company. Yeah. We'll build you into a company first. You can't keep operating out of a private bank account. Taking funds, and although we weren't receiving funds ourselves, we just needed a bank for the money to come in, right? So then we could then disperse it out in training or helping families post-suicide, whatever the case may be for us at that time. So I said, I know I was getting a bit worried about potentially tax sides and things like this and how that looked. Yeah. And to be honest, it looks a bit unprofessional. We're running events and go, oh yeah, just put money into this private bank account.
Yeah, it's an optics thing as well,
isn't it? Yeah. So that's, I guess, where Mr. A's drive came from. And he's going, well, for doing this, you guys need to be set up as what they call a DGR, deductible gifts recipient. So effectively, that means a not-for-profit charity. Yeah. And I was like, okay, how the fuck do we do that? And so he drew upon some of his resources, engaged a lawyer for us. Again, the business plan went with that. A lot of toing and fromming, a lot of late nights from me, a lot of long weekends, 4 hours each night out in the shed while everyone's asleep or mates are out partying. I'm in the shed answering calls, looking at Instagram, writing business plan, you name it. It's all happening. Yeah. And then, we finally got set up. Well, not finally, but through that hard work and through Mr. A's mentoring and some financial backing and through his resources, we set up as a company in July.
Yep.
July, yeah, we set up as a company, and we got not-for-profit status in October this year. So we are now fully set up as an endorsed DGR, which is fantastic. It's really good for us. It's not an easy feat to get the DGR or the not-for-profit status.
Anything to do with the government isn't easy.
Look, we're really proud. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm really proud of us, but I'm proud of Mr. A and his team as well for helping us the way they have.
Yeah.
But what it also has done is it's given us the confidence and the ability now to reach out to the community further. And what then happened off the back of that and again, this is organic stuff. This is just the universe, without sounding like a hippie, but I really believe in this stuff. I feel like the universe puts the right people in front of you at the right time. You have opportunities there, right? And it's either you walk through that open door or you walk away from it. And I'm a massive one to, I'm a very vibey person. So if the vibe feels right and I can see genuineness in it, I've got an element of trust. I go, right, let's see where this path takes us. You can weed out some others, who you don't feel maybe potentially aren't as genuine. So off the back of all that, I got invited down to a group down south. It's called the Wine Coast Networking Team or the Wine Coast Network. Yep. They have a morning breakfast. Like-minded business people get together. And they almost effectively have a men's group, so to speak, but it's all business owners and females are there too. And they share what's going on in business, where their business is at, what they might be struggling with, and they share. And so they asked to present there. Within half an hour, I think 15 of us were all bawling our eyes out around the table through sharing a lived experience, but then obviously saying what we do in the next step. They love what we do. So they said, we'll help out. And then the charity gala dinner came about, and that was huge. That was all hosted by them. We had Mark Ryan, the beautiful Bogan, come along.
Shout out to Mark.
Shout out to Mark Ryan.
Absolute
Such a legend, man.
and such
Go listen to that episode. Fucking good episode.
Yeah, that's
as well,
a good episode too. Fucking oath.
Mate, and he is such an advocate, not only for mental health, but he's all about suicide prevention, suicide awareness and definitely suicide prevention.
Yeah.
So we love working in with Mark when we have these events and getting him on board because, again, he shares that passion and that he just wants to save lives.
Yeah, and he's out there doing talks in rural, like north,
100%.
doing all that kind of stuff as well. So
yeah, he certainly is. He's going out to all those rural areas. He's presenting his show, and although very funny, it comes with a serious message, right?
Definitely, yeah.
And one thing I didn't actually know about Mark until our charity gala dinner, which was only November the 9th.
Okay, so pretty recent.
But he's actually got the Grim Reaper tattooed on his hand with a big red cross.
Yeah.
So and that's his reminder about basically not to take his life. But that's
inspired by an Amity Affliction song as well.
Yeah. So all this stuff's been happening for us as the next step, but the message for us doesn't change, and what our actions within the community hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So I guess the biggest thing for us now is because we're set up as a not-for-profit. That charity gala dinner was awesome because businesses could get involved, so we can actually effectively get more funds. So off the back of that, what we're doing now in 2023 in February, we're actually training 30 community members in applied suicide intervention skills training, assist we call it.
So good, man.
So that's a big part of what we like to do. We like to get bums on seats out in the community, those people on the front line, in footy clubs, at the gyms, and in bars, cafes, restaurants, wherever we can find them, those genuine people that have got some passion, maybe some lived experience, maybe a little bit of mental health training already, some have had, and just giving them another skill set as that reach out point in all these different cohorts in the community. Because we think,
it creates a groundswell of communication around that as well. That person talks about what they're going to do and, that's really cool. Oh, that's, I know
100%.
someone who would love to do that. And then they reach out, like they go and follow it creates those little, points of the spider web that starts to grow.
The ripple effect.
The ripple effect, yeah.
It creates the ripple effect.
Now, the other thing that you guys have been doing right on that theme is with the haircuts. Tell us about that initiative.
Well, so that's Ange Santucci. That's Tucci's hair design. And shout out to Ange. And I know once he knows this has gone live, he will be listening. So, bro, shout out to Ange. But look, Ange has been...
we don't use him because Richie clearly doesn't use him.
I've even been in there for a beard trim. I feel really bad. I just use my cheap clippers at home. But look, Ange... He is one of these genuine souls in the community who just wants to help. And he wants to help in any way he can. And so one of the other things, and this idea is not only just formulated between Mark Ryan and myself, but we're looking at all those different, fronts that we can hit the community and have people train. But, where is the saturation? Where are people sitting comfortably for a bit of a period of time and then, how's your day been? Blah.
Yeah.
Where would you do that? Ange, at a hair salon?
Yeah.
100%.
Perfect
right?
place for it, yeah.
So, any hair salons out there, people passionate about mental health, barbershops especially, if you want assist training, hit us up. We will pay for it. You just need 2 days off and we want to train you.
Yeah, wow.
So, look, Ange, I reckon since day dot, he's liked every post. He's commented on something. I'll post something. I'll put 3 videos up or 3 captions up in a row and it will go bing, bing, bing. And I'll literally say now, that's Ange.
Yeah.
And I'll look over and it's Tucci hair design, Tucci hair design, Tucci hair design.
What a legend.
He's just into it.
He loves it.
And, he's just got this pure heart. So he rang me and just said, I need to do something. I want to do something. I need to give back. I love what you guys do. Massive supporter, blah, 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 which is fantastic. And we love that about him. And he's like, do you know what I'll do? He goes, over the month of November, he goes, all men's cuts, $5 back to you guys. I want to create awareness in my shop. I want to get a bit of community support going out there for you guys. So this is where it gets beautiful, I think, as well. He goes, not only I want my tin where the $5 from each haircut is going in, but I want one of you. We do a couple of donation bins ourselves with our flyer, and then we put our support flyers, which reminds me, these are for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen, there's our Next Step flyers.
Wonderful.
All right, and we've got support services on the back.
Perfect.
The reason why they're in that neat little size there is so that you can fold them up neatly, put them in your wallet.
Yep.
Or the missus' purse.
A good size,
Might not be for you, but it could be, hey, mate, you're struggling. I don't know what the fuck to do, but there's some support services on the back here.
That is so cool.
That's awesome.
All right, so they're for you boys and a whole series of our stickers. So
Stack of stickers.
Sticker pack there.
Get them out there.
Get them out there.
We'll
Get
bomb up a quarter panel.
Bomb up a quarter panel,
and get your free merch. So we've got a display there at Ange's shop now. So he literally, I'm just going to get it up now.
That's such a cool thing that he's like, you know what, every haircut, I'm going to donate $5.
And I mean, look, it stuck out to me so much just seeing it. So imagine what other business owners who are always like, I'd love to help out. I don't know how to fucking do it. Back to the grind.
Yeah.
That can go, that was really fucking easy. Like that wasn't, you know what I mean? And then so it creates the ripple effect.
100%.
And then other people want to get on board. You've probably already had interest from other places since he started doing it.
Yeah, and we have. And look, just let me read you this out. This is last night because Ange's closed on Wednesday. So today being Wednesday and end of month.
Day off, yeah.
Yes.
Last night was the final day.
So last night was his final day. So he writes here to me. Hey, my friend, we're all done for the raising the awareness for November. We are not open on Wednesday, so it's all done. We have a full tin of money and again in the donations tin. We did 164 men's cuts, which equates to $820.
Wow.
So if when you can, we meet up at your own convenience, chat soon. Plus, I'll pass on the package. So, it's just that support too. Number one, like, I can't say it enough. Like that support from the bottom of our heart means the world.
Yeah.
It gives us drive to continue to do what we're doing. But effectively what he's done is out of that money, we've got close to another 3 members trained in our community with applied suicide intervention skills training. All right. So it's as easy as that, So now, who knows, down the track, again, the universe has a funny way of working out. We might use those funds to train someone in the community where one of Ange's best mates might turn to for support one day.
Saves their life, man.
Saves a life, man.
Yeah.
And we are. That's what it's about. We're in the business of saving lives.
Exactly, bro.
So, Ange, thanks again, bro. Thank you for the funds.
Legend.
And look.
Where's his salon? Give him a
he's down at Morpeth Vale. Check out his Instagram post. He's Tucci. Tucci's Hair Designs.
Is it Tucci? Is that
Tucci?
Yeah.
Tucci Hair Designs.
Probably asking the wrong person for spelling, but
Ask him to say anonymous.
What was the other word?
how do you spell
Philanthropist.
I'm not even trying. Expialidocious, supercolour. Got that wrong too. But look, the community support, and we always talk about, don't we, that we are a community-based page. Like, there's 3 faces behind it, sure, but in a roundabout way, we are doing all the hat work. But we feel the community drives it. So, and I've always said,
man.
if someone out there goes, boys, you're not putting enough attention onto this, we'll change focus for a bit. Let's put some light around that.
Well, I mean, look at the fact that I've plugged this. I mean, how many times do you reckon I've plugged Next Step on the fucking podcast? Like 30, 40 times since the episode at least. Every time anything remotely mental health comes up, I'm like, perfect fucking segue to tell you about the Next Step. So it's like, but I'm not paid to do that work.
you're not.
Maybe in stickers.
Stickers and flies.
Stickers and songs, right? But that is purely off, again, my belief in the work that you guys are doing and the message that you guys are trying to deliver. So again, with Tucci, with myself, any of these people, a lot of the when you're doing such great work, you don't need to incentivize people to spread the message. You don't need, they're going to just do it off their own back because they believe in the cause as well.
100%. And that's what our biggest drive it's about empowering people, right? Giving people the confidence to be able to talk about these things and to go, you know what, if those knuckleheads can do it, we can go out and have a chat with our mates. And again, the ripple effect, we're all making a difference. We're all playing our part, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that, like they say, it's just that one conversation that could literally change a life.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple of cafes. A long time ago, Zach Hausler, we had, or Heusler. Oh my God, what is wrong with my speech?
Say anonymous again.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to even attempt. Let me get this right. Zach Heusler, we did a pod with him. So Zach and the family lost his brother to suicide at the start of January 21. So after the grieving process, and let's be honest, they were still in it, but Zach felt empowered to pay it forward on coffees. It's just something that he did. So he'd be in a line and he'd have a quick look over his shoulder, and there might be two blokes standing behind him. So he'd go, "Can I have blah blah?" And I'm paying for the next two guys behind me without them knowing, and he'd walk off.
Yeah.
Right. So he's just shouted 2 coffees out of the kindness of his heart, random acts of kindness. Now, the reason why he's doing that is because he goes, you don't know what type of day the bloke behind me is having. So the fact that I get up there and order a coffee and the teller says, no, it's all good, that bloke paid for you. He said he wanted to give you a free coffee. That might just be the one gesture that changes that guy's day to go, fuck, someone cares.
Today wasn't the day. Yeah, exactly.
Or today wasn't the day.
Yeah.
It could be that serious, right?
Yeah.
So I took a little bit of Zach's approach and started doing it at one of our local coffee vans down south. And then some people have started getting onto it. So now I know of about 3 cafes down south that have a Next Step tab.
That's
and I actually
amazing.
went into one of them today, and the lady she literally said, she goes, "You're Richie from the Next Step, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, this sucks." So
Oh no, you're starting to
He
recognize.
secretly loved it.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, I am.
I can't even go get a coffee without
no.
No.
Starts wearing the hood and
Yeah, the
hat,
hoodie.
like,
Yeah.
It's like the paparazzi are out the front again.
Settle down, Kanye.
Thanks for tearing Shred's voice. I'm going to have to check my mental health after this podcast.
That's right. Well, you got your therapist appointment soon, and he's going to bring you back to earth as well.
Hey Siri, is this a form of bullying or banter? She would decide. No, joking. So look, it was a really cool conversation in the sense she goes, "Oh, we love the movement around the coffees, naturally being a coffee shop, that people can come in and grab a free coffee." And I said, "Look, that is part of it, but I said part of the other part that's sort of been lost in translation is that we wanted to put some money, or my whole idea was put some money on your tab there, right, and you hold it. So when a mate says, 'Hey man, you look like you're struggling, let's go grab a coffee,' they can go down to the local cafe. Next Step have shouted you a coffee, and you take your mate up the back corner and sit down and have a chat over a coffee.
That's amazing.
All right.
I like that. Yeah.
Just again, it's just those little things, and we're not spending big bucks. It might be $100 here, $100, but if that buys 20 coffees and creates 20 conversations in the community, fucking how good's that?
You don't need to be spending the big bucks.
No.
When it comes to mental health, sometimes just sitting around having a coffee and actually just talking about it and then going, oh yeah, someone does understand me, or someone does want to listen to me, is all it takes.
Yeah. And the lady, the barista today, she said, you know what? I've been she goes, I know there's no right way or wrong way to be doing this, but she said, I've just sort of been judging, or not judging people, that's probably the wrong word, but I've just been trying to critique people of how they're looking, whether they may need one or not. And she said the difference was one day a bloke came in and he was looking a bit down and out, and she goes, hey, do you know what? Would you like, here's a free coffee, and if you like, there's Next Step Aus. These are the guys that do that, and I just felt like you needed a free coffee today.
Yeah.
And apparently he just started bawling his eyes out.
Wow.
And he said, thank you so much. So I needed that today. And off he went. So it's just those little things you hear back that you go, okay, maybe we are making a difference.
You definitely are, man.
Makes me
Without a doubt.
sleep easier at night. So.
100%.
Yeah.
Knowing, like, even just knowing the fact that you saved even one person. You know what I mean? It's all. That's all you need.
Yeah,
Really.
we like even just the couple of messages. Well, we've had heaps, but there's one in particular that was early on, and it might have been after even your episode or something. And they were just like, I needed that. I've moved away from home. Everything's been really hard in this new job, and just the way you guys kind of frame some things will put a lot of shit into perspective for me, and I feel a lot better about everything. I just want to say thank you so much. I'll do another 500 episodes writing off the fucking good feeling that I get. Even talking about that just then still gives me. So it's like I'm here for that. That's what it's about at the end of the day.
Well, that's what we talk about. There's nothing altruistic in this world. It's weird. You might go in there with those intentions, but funnily enough, you end up getting something back out of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And
Yeah,
we get that just as much. So about giving back, don't we? As what people might get from us, we get a buzz out of it as well. And it's coming from a good place. We're not doing it to boost our egos or
of course
whatever.
not, yeah.
We're literally doing it because we give a fuck and we're passionate about this. But yeah, the plus about it is it feels good. It does.
Yeah, and it screams authenticity, man. It does.
So one thing just on that that we've covered a lot, and I'm sure we'll probably cover a lot more things because we're going down the wormholes, right?
Yeah.
But any listeners out there, if there's one thing to take home from me especially, and one thing that I live by these days, is every day just please strive to be the best version of you. I'm looking in the camera and say that.
Yeah.
Be the best version of you. However that looks. On some days when we're down and out, our best version may be just getting up and brushing our teeth, and that's okay. But it might be in conversations, the way we carry ourselves, interactions, and then reflect on your day. And ask yourself whether you were the best version of yourself in the day. And if you tick the boxes for yourself, fucking fantastic. If you go, you know what, pulling myself up a little bit here, maybe I could have done that better today. Well, guess what? There's always tomorrow to improve on it. And so be the better version of yourself that day. Yeah. So if we're doing these 1%ers each day,
They add up.
mental health difficulty or challenge or not, they all add up.
Yeah, man.
Consistency is a beautiful thing.
Well, one thing that I'll say is that two episodes we had around the same time was yourself and Callum from Youngblood, who I also shout out a lot. Absolute fucking legend.
Yep.
You both in the episodes talked about the importance of journaling with your mental health. And I said at that time a fucking year ago that I was, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to do it. Well, at the beginning of this year, when shit started getting really hectic, I got made redundant and Erica was going through everything she was going through, I'm like, you know what? No time like the fucking present. Because the thing is, because of how I understand how it works, I thought of it as like, you're going to be able to see yourself in this moment where shit's really fucked up, and you're going to be able to write yourself out of it. And it was exactly, I already knew it. And a lot of people don't think about it in that way of like, I already knew the end result, but the importance of it was so good. And now I've been able to keep up. I only do it maybe once fortnightly. I'm actually overdue, I think, at the moment this week. But I've done it. It was started like daily for a little bit. Then it went to weekly, and then it's been fortnightly consistently for about 6 months.
Yep.
But it's so good already being able to have to look back at that time and go, yeah, fuck, you were not sure how this was going to play out. You weren't sure how this was going to play out. You weren't sure about that. And now, so many other things and outcomes have happened from it. So I wanted to obviously mention that because you mentioned it, Callum mentioned it, other people have come on the pod and talked about it before, and I really can speak from personal experience about how invaluable it is to just spend, even if it is weekly, fortnightly, write down what you feel and what you've been feeling over those last 2 weeks and give yourself a point of reference to look back at.
Well, it might, at the initial stages of, let's say, crisis, if we're really wanting to get it out, it might be daily. Or it might be even half daily, just getting whatever you can out onto paper. And it can be dot points. It can be, I think it's just whatever's there, because, we're taking it out of here and we're getting it out of our brains, our cognitive thinking, and we're putting it on paper. So it's stuff that we don't have to have rattling around. And I sort of frame it in a kind of a weird way, but everyone knows what a revolving door is, right?
Yeah.
So how easy is it when one person walks in a revolving door, does a spin and lets themselves out, Right now, you cram that fucker with 200 people. What's going inside that revolving door right now?
Yeah.
We've got fucking chaos, man. We don't know where the front to the back is, and shit's going hectic in there. We've got to start letting some of those things out. So the revolving door approach is just letting those things come in and out, and a good way of letting it out is by also writing it out. So effectively, we're clear. In my analogy here, we're clearing the revolving door by freeing up space to put it there.
I like that. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be writing.
Well, yes, and this is
So I'm a big believer in like, look, I'm not going to write shit. I write all day. That's what I have to do for a job. So if you ask me to write something, it's like talking in voice notes.
100%.
Yeah.
It's fucking, it's easy, you know, like you're driving home from work, chuck your voice note on.
Captain's log, star date.
Set a theme to it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good one. I like that. It started with This is Simon
captain's
Tyler
thing.
reporting. But, you know, that's how it can be. And like, look, I picked that up for me because, you know, I'd heard a lot about journaling. I'd never actually got taught it. Like, it wasn't something I was recommended when I was going through therapy, but I picked up because when I was doing my study, if I'd had a good idea about my article or something that I was writing, I'd actually be like, I was working as a tradie still at the time, and I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, I can't just run off and grab a pen and paper and start writing it down. So I just took my phone with me and started talking. I actually had a voice recorder.
Yeah.
And then, now I still use it sometimes. It's just like, fucking get that shit out.
Yeah, exactly. You might even forget sometimes the idea if you got an idea.
100%. It needs to be there. And it's it. Sometimes it comes at the weirdest shit. Like, I'll be in the gym sometimes and I'll be like, fuck, there's the clarity. And I'll, you know, be like, duck to the bathroom and be like, and then I'm all good to go. I'm like, sweet. I'll fucking move on from that.
And just to go one another level of that, well, who's effectively become a mate of mine and mate of the page, Ben Wade. We've done a interview with him, a podcast, definitely not as decent as this, but it's just a chat, a chat between two guys, me sort of going, let's share your story if you're feeling comfortable. And he does exactly what Simmo says. He doesn't like writing down and stuff, so he does all of his journaling through the phone. But then what he also does is he saves that, puts it in a folder, but then he does his to-do lists as well.
Okay.
So he's getting everything out. He's getting emotionally out, and then he's going, right, I've got a
structure,
shitload of stuff in my day, because he's a very structured person, right?
Yeah.
But when we hold structure, and again, you know, we put pressure, and when with structure comes time restraints, and even for me with time restraints, then comes building anxiety, because if we're not going to get or achieve what we need to get done by that fucking time, it becomes stressful, right? So he'll talk out his to-do list as well. So then, and that's in another file or keeps it there. So, and that's another great way of, you know, just unpacking a few things out of the brain and just trying to give you a sense of, I call it a sense of peace. It's working in the present, right? This is the only thing we've got right now, the present. We can do the whole talk about the past and talk about the future thing, but we won't go into that full analogy. But it's about giving our brain the time just to sit where it needs to be, which is now.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Exactly.
You know, I often talk about, you know, mindfulness probably at this point, you know, practicing mindfulness in everything we do. It's something that I've been getting entrenched in lately, and I love it. And I think we all practice mindfulness in a roundabout way without even knowing, but actually being effectively controlling over everything that we do, you know, our breath, the way we talk, driving a car. And driving a car is a perfect example in the sense you can get in a car, and I'm sure we'll all nod when this has happened. How many times you've been driving down the road and you've gone through about 3 sets of lights and you go, those fucking lights red?
Yeah, I actually had that yesterday. I was like, did I fucking just run red? I didn't, but like,
No.
I was like,
Sometimes you're just like, how the fuck did I get here where I am right now? Because like the last time I remember,
That's called sleeping at the wheel, guys.
yeah.
It could be called sleeping at the wheel. But what we're doing is we're not mindful. We're not in the present. We're letting our brains wander off with thought, almost into a subconscious state where we're distracted from the task that we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay? So by pulling that back, you can use breathwork, sensory tools, you know, name 3 colours, you work the 5 senses, smell, touch, sound, whatever. But it's about this mental fitness and building that over time. There's mindfulness in everything, and mindfulness helps promote the brain staying in the present. And it's a really good tool, actually, I believe, and from a psychological approach for people with ADHD.
Yep.
If the more they can, it's hard for them to stay mindful because their brain's so overreactive. But when given a task, and you know, I did it with an apprentice taught to me sort of by one of my, we'll call him our mindful teacher, and this is something that we've adapted and started building into the next step now. We run not only our men's group, but we run a mindful men, we call it. It's facilitated by Nigel Black. It's on our page. His credits go longer than this guy's. But he's ordained Buddhist, Zen Buddhist, and he's taught for 25 years, teaches for 25 years all around the world. Lovely guy, but fucking literally down to earth as fuck. He's a great dude.
Because he's so mindful, he's so laid back.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. And he runs a small group of guys. We meet once every Thursday. Come have a chat if you want, and then we go practice mindfulness. And we learn the art of breathing, relaxing through meditation. It's fucking great. It gives the brain a reprieve, and it's great to see guys come in with probably an sense of overwhelmingness and probably a bit of anxiety presence. And then when they leave, you can just see them, the whole body language just relaxing.
Yeah.
Thanks, dudes. We'll be back.
Yeah.
But he taught me this practice, and I use it with an apprentice about, again, doing things mindfully, even cutting food. Like how often you're in the kitchen, you're just like, fucking this, that, the other. But he said, if you actually just slow down for a moment and feel the texture of the knife going through the skin, looking at the juice, taking the smells in, doing all this, now you're actually focusing. don't make this rude. Don't make this rude, motherfucker. But actually taking the time to be in the present and focusing on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I bet. You think it's funny? It's not funny.
I just want you to say it again.
It's just saying
the
the
skin.
The
juice.
Smelling the juice. Yeah, smelling the
But
juices.
then even eating it, he's laughing because he's a prick, but it actually fucking works because it makes the brain actually focus in on the task at hand.
Yeah,
and if you're dealing with someone, I feel, who's got an overwhelmed mind, especially with an ADHD approach, if you can get them to fucking cut a tomato mindfully and then eat it mindfully for 2-3 minutes, there's 3 minutes of reprieve. Their brain wasn't thinking about 1,000 different other things that they wouldn't have got without being mindful.
It's funny, just a quick
Sorry. This is how much I struggled at school. I just, I literally went back to school then like, oh my God, I'm laughing for no reason.
What the fuck is Rich talking about? But I swear it's a... Nige, don't worry about him. It is actually a fucking unbelievable practice, and I encourage more people to do it.
Yeah,
me and Erica went on a wine tour for our anniversary, and we were doing like a chocolate.
So it was the juices in the
It was the juices. It was the juices.
He's just like,
It's the
smelling
juices.
juices.
Smelling juices.
Smelling juice. I was like,
he's off work.
No, I love it.
We're here for the bands as well,
It's so well behaved at the office all day. It's starting to come out.
Smelling juices was going to set you off.
And this is why the boys make us talk for half an hour before the podcast so we can get all the grottiness out.
Get all the juices out.
Get all the juices out.
Got Simmo's juices going at least. That's the main thing.
Well, we've been gone for about an hour 40, so I reckon now's probably a good time to get into
our
what we like to do
returning
right at the
guestions.
end, the
Here we go.
returning questions, because we were talking about this before. We got a few new stingers. You were expecting the horses.
Yeah, and I had
He had a
Why would
few.
we ask the same question again?
I had like what was it? 100 horses. 100
Yeah, duck-sized horses.
Duck-sized horses.
Yeah, or one horse-sized duck.
Horse-sized duck.
Yeah,
And
that
I
was the
had an
original
answer to that.
question.
I had another. I thought about it weirdly.
Okay, well, quickly before we ask the question, give us your. No one's ever got to answer this question
it
again.
twice,
But
yeah,
because you're such a legend, give us your year-long, rethought out answer to: would you rather fight?
He's been stewing on it. He's been sleeping on it.
Would you
bro.
rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
So an hour 40 you said we've been going for?
Yep.
Yeah.
How much memory you've got on this fucker?
Hey, enough.
So anyway, I was in the shower.
He's like, where can I plug in the PowerPoint presentation?
I was in the kitchen and I was cutting some tomatoes, some of the
And
juice.
one of the juice hit me in the eye, and I realised.
Ryan will appreciate this because what I thought I would take the fucking horse-sized duck with a jiu-jitsu approach, right?
That's my approach.
Yeah,
my
so
approach.
somehow I sort of distract the fucker. I get on its back. I literally choke the motherfucker out.
literally have the same.
Yeah, you do.
Not to the point. I don't want to kill it. I just want to submit it enough for me to go
tap,
sucked
snap on
in,
that.
and then I can get out of there and be like, I just submitted a fucking duck the
Horse-sized
size of a
giant
horse
duck, yeah.
with a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
With me.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if we
I
want
like
it
that.
while it's out, we'll just be really cheeky and give it a heel hook as well.
Yeah,
Just-
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, my logic is like you think
Flat
about duck,
knees.
you think about duck legs, right,
Yeah.
and how thin they are,
Yeah.
right. Even though it's the size of a horse, it's only going to be like that
Yeah, chop it down.
You're going to be able to do a good old slide tackle straight through those
Just
legs.
cheeky knee bar to the bloody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
like
the
a good
bloody
power
duck
double
size.
and just
Yeah.
like hit him or even just kick him and like wound
Just
the knee.
double
Dance.
leg up against the cage.
Double leg up against the leg. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And then take the back and get the rear naked choke.
That's it.
United horse size duck championship fighting. Yeah, I fucking
exactly.
like it. Very good.
Exactly.
Went down. That is a wormhole.
Yeah.
That is a goddamn. Yeah.
We're on, bro.
We're
You're
on.
gonna, you're gonna
We're
love,
on.
You're gonna love the final question of this set, but we're gonna start it nice and easy. The first question of the original questions is, what is your favorite song of all time? This one we like to expand on that and go, what is your favorite album of all time? So it has to be start to finish. There's not a song you skip.
Yeah, now.
What
it's
is
an
your
album.
favorite album?
Jesus.
I can't even answer this. So I like asking
Neither can
people
I,
questions
man.
I
Yeah.
can't.
Probably Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, that is a fucking solid choice.
But I'd also probably go Pantera, Cowboys from Hell.
Oh, never had a Pantera. I think we've had a Chili Peppers before, but
Yeah, we haven't heard any
We've had a
Pantera.
Pantera.
I'm not a huge fan of some of what Phil Anselmo said in his time, but
Yeah, of course,
I
but-
do love the music, and it's a pretty killer album.
separate the art from the people sometimes.
Yeah.
Very good. One would be anything Rage Against the Machine, and the first one that just came to mind was Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was the album before that with the sort of like the bloke with the flames, but it's like a
It wasn't Battle of Los
Yeah, I
no,
can't
it wasn't
think of
Battle
it.
of Los Angeles. That I think it was like one of their
Was that Killing in the Name of?
Was the album called Killing in the Name
I
of?
think it might have been.
was.
Actually.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
going to say that, but I thought it doesn't sound like because that's
Yeah.
Song,
most
but-
best played song. But
Yeah.
yeah. So either one of those two albums, anything Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, well,
love.
they're fucking epic,
And I actually
aren't
just played it the other day. I was having a bit of music therapy, having a bit of a day, and thought, you know what, let's get in touch with some of the old school. And
Let's
then
Rage Against the Machine.
Fucking
That's
hell.
right.
I just smashed it out. It just got me
Yeah.
feeling good.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's pure energy with those guys. Isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like there's nothing like just screaming. Like sometimes I actually teach this to my clients. Sometimes they're like, and I'm like, mate, it's the best form of emotional release. Like screaming in the car is just epic.
Oh,
Why
hell
do you
yeah.
think we're like such like fiends for like the heaviest metal? Because
Yeah.
we're like, it just you get out of the car,
Yeah.
you've just been absolutely fucking belting it out. Then you like get out, and you're like,
Like, all right, now it's time to go lift. Like,
yeah.
Do you have one thing I've been doing lately, and anyone who knows me on my private account, I've been doing car karaoke with my kids when I pick them
really?
up from Osh. So
Yeah.
I'll jump in the car, and one of them was Rage Against the Machine. So, and the Ranger's got a pretty good stereo system in it.
Yeah.
So I just, as soon as they get in, they now say, Dad, can we have our sunglasses? I'm like, yeah, no worries. So I've got them these like little black sunglasses they put on. I just crank something, and then they just headbang all the way home.
That's
So
amazing.
good.
One of my mates that I went to school with, haven't connected with him for ages. He actually goes, bro, I love this car karaoke, spelt with a K, by the way.
Yeah.
He goes, can you do Slayer, Raining Blood, next one? And I
Yeah,
said,
what a
"Done,
song."
I'll do it for you. So I'll have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old with a broken arm headbanging to Slayer,
Love
Raining Blood
it.
next week.
Love
So
it.
good. That's
Love
amazing.
it.
Good choice. All right, question number 2. You can hit him with that one.
All right,
my
because
man.
we
You
don't
lead
actually
it.
know these. We've only ever done them like once.
Yeah,
So,
so
we're
you
gonna
can
have a
read the
look.
second one going upwards.
Yeah. Oh, so this one now?
No, upwards. So the bottom one was
Oh,
number one,
okay.
going upwards. Yep.
What would be your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse?
Do you know what? Anyone from down south in the martial arts scene will know the answer to, or understand my answer. And if you don't, you're going to have to research him and look him up. My weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse, and this has been a red stated thing we used to talk about in the gym. If there was a zombie apocalypse and you had any chance of survival, you would stand behind Kim Robinson. That is my weapon of choice.
He's the weapon.
And yeah, I'm actually going to go along with that too. It's either him or Steve Bean, one of the two boys. But I think Kim will just, he'll sort things out and everything will be fine.
Maybe we got to ask him what his weapon is then.
Well,
Yeah,
so
one of
Kim,
his
His weapon is just Kim.
He's on Instagram as at the Vagabond Maestro, I think. Yeah, Vagabond Maestro.
Yeah.
And he is a training machine.
We'll see if we can pull a photo and then like put it
Yeah.
on this bit of the.
Yeah.
He's
episode
just,
for-
there's some stories about him. If I knew about him when I was growing up through school, him and his brother.
You don't fuck with Kim.
He just,
Lovely
they're just
guy, lovely
the
guy.
greatest people in the world. But yeah, they can take care of themselves.
They can
Robinsons.
take care of themselves.
But
really
yeah,
well.
I reckon
They can take care of some zombies. couldn't
he'd
they?
sort the problem out for everyone.
That's great. What a good answer. No one's ever suggested
one's ever
another
suggested
human. I don't think that's
Operation Human Shield.
I don't think that's been like in anyone asking that question ever. I don't think everyone's gone. There's one guy.
This guy.
And as long as he's there in the zombie apocalypse, we good.
We're fucking fine. Yeah.
All right. This is a joke that's going to set you off. A question that's going to set you off somehow on the chat. What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
And it can't be juices.
It can't be stinky juices. I don't know my answer to this either. I asked these questions and I got no fucking idea.
I don't think I've ever eaten one, but a kumquat.
What's a kumquat?
Fruit, and I don't know why. I just popped it
Just because it's got cum in it.
Come in it. Yeah.
I've just really gone down that.
I thought you said come what?
Say anonymous again, bro.
What about you, Richie?
Oh, dude, I
Yeah, I don't
No
know.
eyeballs
do you know
or
what? I was one of those
testicles or-
shit kids who probably had undiagnosed ADHD, and I know I ate a lot of dumb shit. Oh, I got one right now, and I wasn't even young. I was at a mate's wedding. There was those glass bowls on the table, the centerpieces, and they're filled with like those flat, marbly looking things that's stones.
Yeah.
So I took the flour, like after a few drinks, of course, is when I used to drink.
Yeah.
I took the decorations out and grabbed that and handed it to my wife and said, "Hey, do you want a mint?" And she looked at it and she goes, "They're not mints, you idiot." And I'm like, "Yes, they are." And to prove my point, I grabbed one of the stones and ate it like
no way.
And I actually heard the tink the next morning.
I was going to say, did you crack your sister yet?
Wow, you made it all the way
So
through.
that's there, but I've eaten a lot of dumb shit.
Wow. Have you got anything? You probably can't rival that.
No, I got nothing.
Not a kumquat.
What's funny is I'm so funny with my eating. I can't eat foods with this is where you talk about being on the spectrum sometimes. But yeah, I can't eat feta because of the texture. Like I just
Even bananas with it.
it's weird. I have to literally stay in my lane so I don't eat outside of the norm at all.
I understand that a lot though, because I don't eat oysters. I don't fucking.
Yeah, I know it's gross.
Yeah.
Slimy,
Yeah.
disgusting.
No.
Just give me a chicken snitty.
I'll have
Yeah,
I'll have
100%,
all the
dude.
oysters then. I love
100%. All
Question
right,
number 4.
next question. Would you rather see 15 minutes? Wait, would you rather see 15 minutes or? Oh, okay, I get it. Would you rather see 15 minutes or 15 years into the future?
You got one shot, one opportunity, seize everything you ever wanted.
Do you want to see the next 15 minutes or 15?
Are we about to wrap it?
Yeah. Palms are pretty sweaty.
Wow, you could go first on that one. My mind, I'm a massive overthinker, so that's kind
Oh, wow. We're causing mental health.
I'm going 15 minutes because,
Yeah.
fate is inexorable. It'll play out the way it's meant to play out.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Most people have said 15 minutes so I can see what horse runs a race. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
see, I wouldn't
and
even.
wins-
I'll
wins
probably
and
just be like, yeah, cool. That's what I'm taking a shit in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So is it like you only get to see but in the 15 years, do I understand?
Fucking
or
Christ,
do I only
Rick.
get to see year 15 and everything else skips out?
Only year 15.
No. So it's either 15 minutes from now or 15 years from now in a quick flash. And
Yeah, my brain can't take on 15 years worth of shit, so 15 minutes too.
just
Yeah,
go to
15 years
minutes.
is a decent amount of time.
I
Yeah.
guess why I was kind of freaking out in a roundabout way and overthinking that is like, because in 15 years, like say me right now, it's
How old are
like you might even see your own death.
Exactly, bro. You
Year
might.
7 or 8, and then you've got 7 or 8 years to either go, fuck, I need to really capitalise on the next 7 or 8 years and make the most of it.
I don't want to see
Or-
the future.
But I think the whole
We might get rid of that question.
but
really dark.
Like,
These are still a work in progress. These are the
Yeah,
returning
no.
questions.
But
So.
yeah, 15 minutes. I think going back to our thing we talked about living in the present, it'd be just nice to know what happens 15 minutes before time.
Yeah.
And then you could reverse some of the
Check the
arguments
traffic.
about-
Check the traffic when you're about to go out. You're like 15 minutes.
I'm
not going down Marion Road.
South Expressway is fucked. I'm going
Is
somewhere.
that coffee going to make my stomach hurt?
Thing though, right? You just go, I'll just give it another 15. I'll just give it
Yeah.
another. Where everyone just goes, I just need another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You could then say, I just need another 15 minutes.
And you go, no, too
That's all we
bad.
need. Yeah.
Too bad. That's all you get. All right, now this is we've tried to find something that rivals the original question, the one that had you pondering in the shower earlier. So
For a whole 12 months.
I have a feeling this one might fuck you up as well. All right. So, would you rather sword fight an orangutan once a year?
Hang on, we're talking sword fight in terms of
You both. Well, do you know what? Your interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's already with the orangutan.
Hey, you said it, isn't it?
Would you rather cross swords? Would you rather sword fight an orangutan once a year or fight a chicken every time you get in your car?
I'm sword fighting the orangutan every time.
That's exactly what I reckon too.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Oh, fuck the chicken, mate.
How annoying would it be? You're just like, I want to go get a coffee.
Yeah.
Then the fucking thing's
Just like, "Rah!"
yeah, it's
Yeah.
fucking razor claws and
I'm
shit.
sword fighting it, and I'm down for that.
Yeah, at the risk of.
But the thing is though, the orangutan could kill you.
And the orangutan's got a sword as well. So it's not like you and a sword versus an orangutan. That dude's wielding a sword as well.
Yeah,
I
but we've
just
got
don't
one.
think they got the dexterity to challenge.
They've got the strength, just not the.
Yeah, not the. They don't know what to do. It's just gonna be dragging along the ground.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're fucking more focused on a
swinging around,
banana.
doing whatever. Yeah, I'm good to go with the orangutan.
Yeah, I think
orangutan.
I'm with you. Yeah,
Yeah, you're doing the orangutan too.
Yeah, I think
Just
so.
too many chickens if you
Couldn't
get
deal
any.
with that inconvenience every time I got my car.
Yeah.
And you'd end up probably like fucking really cursing like Steggles or something, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You motherfuckers keep your
You
chickens
get
in your
over-
bloody
You
yard.
get over chicken, you wouldn't want to eat it anymore.
Nah.
You'd be
Oh,
so fit though,
yeah.
because you just walk to work every day. You just
Yeah.
go, you know what? Don't need a car. Don't need a car. Then you forget about it, and your mum comes to pick you up, and you get in, and you're like, "Hey, mum!"
Razor
Because
claws.
it doesn't stipulate your car.
No.
It just stipulates every time you get in a
Anyone's
car.
You get in an Uber on the way home from town. You're like,
And the driver's a chicken. You don't even realise. You're like, "Hey, you're busy tonight, mate." He's like,
Fuck, nah, definitely orangutan. Bring it on.
And that would be like me leaving here and getting in Simmo's car, and there's a fucking chicken. in there.
Yep.
yeah.
What the fuck you got a chicken in your car for, man?
It's like for the juices.
It's a
You should
smell.
have seen me before I was crossing swords.
And this is what's good about this podcast, right? Is because we can really come full circle from
yeah.
one of the most important and hard-hitting chats about mental health to this absolute fucking debauchery. But
Sorry, I took it down.
no, look, that's what we're here for.
bro.
It's wormholes, right? We end up wherever the fuck we want to end up, and that's the
100%.
most important thing.
Great
But
way to
boys,
finish.
I really cannot overstate enough how important it is and how amazing it is the work that you guys are doing. And we thank you taking your time. You've got about a 4.5 journey home. It's already 10:30, and you make that effort to come down here because you know
Yeah.
the importance of having this conversation and getting this out there as well. So please keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. We're going to keep plugging you and helping you out any way we can. And we look forward to version 3 another year from now. We'll just fucking make this a yearly
Start thinking about that
WrestleMania.
question, bro.
Mental mania.
mental mania. Yeah,
So just to remind everybody of your Instagram handle and
plug everything.
Yeah.
websites. And
Thank you, guys. So we are found on Instagram at the.next.step.australia. And
Didn't
we
think
now-
that one through.
And we are now on the World Wide Web, so you can find us at the Next Step Australia, or one word, .com.au.
wonderful.
All right, and that's where you'll find us. And we are about to launch a new page on Facebook too.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
you do need to get a bit of Facebook.
And you've obviously got your merch because we've got our hoodies.
Yeah,
and-
and I was going to say, because so Justin went, so thank you so much for your support too, guys. Not only just buying some merch, come on, but again, you are massive supporters. You share a lot of stuff with us, like we like to share your stuff. And these conversations is just important. And you're providing a platform for these messages to get out to the community and help blokes and help women and just help the community at large with, understanding and unpacking and normalising this stuff. So thank you for your
Thank
work
you,
as
man.
well.
Thank
guys.
you.
mate.
No, it's our
Appreciate
pleasure.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate
All right,
it.
boys.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you. We'll definitely see you back here in the future. We can't.
Most definitely.
We got more. We got to think of a question, a third
Yeah,
one now.
third lot now.
Would you rather?
Yeah.
Good.
Stay
Well,
tuned.
I've serenaded everyone on the way out. Just fade to black, and here we go.
Here it is.
I'm joking.
Here it is. All right. Well, Richie, Simmo, thanks, boys.
Thank you so
we'll
much.
see you next time.
Cheers, guys.
See you later.
Peace
Thank you.
out.